Hey there, Knicks fans. This NBA season, every shot you take with Fanatics Sportsbook puts points on the board. Earn up to 10% FANCASH on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring FANCASH. Unlock the world of Fanatics with FANCASH for exclusive rewards like authentic apparel, game tickets, and meeting legend at Fanatics events. Make the switch and turn every bet into a bucket with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
What's going on, Knicks fans? How you doing? My name is Jeremy Cohen, and welcome to another episode of Cap Rules Everything Around Me. Cream, get the money, dollar bills, y'all. I asked you how you're doing. I think I knew the answer. It was a rhetorical question, quite frankly. It's been a rough few days. First of all, I'd like to thank Andrew Claudio for stepping in last minute for me with the show John and I host. The flu is no joke. I'm not Michael Jordan. I didn't have a flu game in me this past weekend, so very grateful for him to show up and be as good as he could be. There were times where I felt like I was going to say something, and then Andrew said it. So thank you very much to him. It's a rough time to be a Knicks fan, certainly. A lot of emotions, a lot going on. Candidly, I haven't seen a large group of people this angry on January 6th since last year when the Knicks lost their third game of 2025 to Jonathan Isaac and the Orlando Magic on January 6th. So look, it happens. These things, they can just occur for different reasons. But it was, of course, a challenge. And I would imagine people are feeling all different types of emotions. Where I'm at, just for whatever it's worth, is not at the chill stage. I don't think it's nothing. I'm not at the anger stage. It's not really a stage per se. It's just kind of how I'm feeling. I'm feeling disappointed. I'm disappointed. I know this team can be better. We know this team can be better. And seeing that level of a performance against Detroit, a game that you know that they had circled on their calendars right as the season started, following for them a back-to-back, but for the Knicks, a day off. And the day before that, a drubbing by the Sixers. The day before that, a drubbing by the Hawks, both on your home court, and a disappointing blown lead turning to a loss to the San Antonio Spurs. So it's been unfortunate, and I was disappointed to see that. You know, I actually last night I was watching the game with my girlfriend, and she's amazing in that she watches the games with me. She looks at the schedule to figure out when things can be done. She's very considerate. And I was disappointed in the Knicks because the quality time of sharing this team was actually an embarrassment for me. Like, I felt embarrassed to be like, hey, you know, the team that you've been rooting for with me along by my side, this is what they've done. They've given us an evening that is just, it's gone now. I mean, that was it. It just, and it was over basically after 1-0. And it just feels like obviously the vibes are not there. They're not great. And of course, credit to Detroit for winning that game. Credit to Philly for winning that game. Credit to Atlanta. When I saw Trae Young was out, I thought, oh, okay. I think that 3-1 prediction might be going out the window for me. I even texted John. He said, what was your record again? And I said, ask me after tonight. I should have lied. That's the moral of the story, folks. Just lie. Lie to your co-hosts, lie to your friends, lie to your family, lie to everyone so that you can actually just maintain the win. But John won the week, so shout out to him on that. But it's been a weird week, obviously, because the highs are high, but the lows are really low. And I see how exhausted this team is. And like Andrew was saying, the rest of the NBA is exhausted too. And of course, the Knicks did more travel and they played another game than the other team. It doesn't matter. It does matter, but it doesn't matter because this team could absolutely use a break. But a break isn't coming for at least a month and change. And that's also after a trade deadline. So, how much data are we collecting of exhaustion and just being like, well, it's fine. They're exhausted. With that in mind, the Knicks have played one game since mid-November. I believe November 15th is really the day, but November 14th, I think, was the one of those. I think November 15th was the Heat game. The one before it was when OG got hurt. So I think that they basically had one game in almost 2 months where their top 7 has not been fully intact. And I think that is an important thing to consider with the defense. It's not everything, absolutely, but it's something. It's hard to have consistency. Other teams deal with injury and other types of adversity as well. No excuse. Just stating when you're tired, when you're traveling a lot. But it's not just that because then the offense just looks off at times. I thought the offense last night wasn't completely sluggish. Fred Katz just talked about how on the SNY put back with Ian Bagley, just Jalen Brunson not bringing the ball up. There is a lethargy that's there. And it's frustrating to see, especially when there's a lack of physicality. You don't need to be physical in order to be a successful team. The Knicks found a way to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It wasn't because they were the most physical. They have been physical. In fact, a more physical iteration of the Knicks had a lower ceiling because they used what felt like brute force. And then they found out, okay, well, actually, we got to do a little bit more than that. And that's still, you want a mix of both. You don't just want to be the smartest, the cleanest. But the Pacers, they played really nice basketball last year. And they were not a brutally physical team. And I think that's something to keep in mind with the Knicks, where you can win your way, but the Knicks aren't winning their way. And I've been rewatching Mad Men now that it's back on HBO Max, which will eventually become HBO, and we'll be back to square one. And there was an episode that aired, and essentially it's surrounding Bye Bye Birdie. And for those who don't know, Bye Bye Birdie, a musical that became a movie in, I want to say 1963, and it's starring Anne Margaret, great movie star of that era. And the movie opens with her singing the song Bye Bye Birdie. And the company that Sterling Cooper wants to work with is called Patio. And Patio wants to recreate the Anne Margaret opening of her singing Bye Bye Birdie, where she's effectively on a treadmill. You can't see the treadmill. It's a blue background. It's just her running and stopping and everything. I said, we want to do exactly that, a shot for shot remake. And just with someone else to cast, someone else to direct, it'll be great. Patio, of course, selling Diet Cola. And so they do it. They film it shot for shot. It is exactly in alignment. It's exactly what the client is asking for. It's got an Anne Margaret type. It's got the song parodied to fit the lyrics and the theme and the client. And lights come up and the client says, it's just not it. It's just not working. And of course, the team at Sterling Cooper says, well, it's exactly what you wanted. It's exactly what you had in mind. And they said, it's just not it. We'll say it's a failure on us, but it is a failure. And they leave. And one of the characters, Harry Crane, he says, it's not right. As in the movie, what they created, it's not right. It doesn't make any sense. It looks right. It sounds right. It smells right. Something's not right. What is it? And Roger Sterling says, it's not Anne Margaret. And that's kind of how I felt watching the Knicks this past week. It's not the Knicks. This is not New York Knicks basketball. This is not what was so successful leading into the NBA Cup. But the thing is, it is still the New York Knicks. This is the same team. Nothing has changed. It's the same exact team, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like something is missing. It feels like the special sauce isn't there. It feels like Jalen Brunson isn't being Jalen Brunson. Karl Anthony Towns isn't being Karl Anthony Towns. OG Anunoby is not OG Anunoby. Mikal Bridges is not being Mikal Bridges, or maybe he is, and that's potentially more concerning. Josh Hart absent, those sorts of things. And that was kind of just in my head as to what is this team? Because I'm not at the point where I'm suddenly panicking. I think this team can do just fine. It's going to be harder now, though, because now with 4 straight losses and a passionate fan base that is upset, and understandably so, it makes, in this case, my job harder, because what am I exactly going to say that will, kind of quell your fears? I genuinely don't know. It's a rhetorical question, because I could say everything's great and move it along, just give it time. I could say, well, they need to trade X, Y, and Z, and we will look into that, of course. But I don't know how many magical fixes there are. I don't know where the cavalry comes from. There, again, can be additions and, of course, subtractions. But in terms of getting this back on track, it may not come in the form of the trade. It doesn't have to be, hey, people's jobs are now swapped out. It's kind of finding it within yourself. And there are a lot of potential symptoms, but what is the root cause? That's a challenge to figure out. So with all of that in mind, it can be difficult to figure out, okay, am I looking for a trade because this is something that the Knicks need? Or am I looking for a trade because this is how I'm feeling? And how you're feeling could also be what the Knicks need, but it's taking that step back because of how triggering losses can be, because expectations can be a challenge. Why does it look like the Celtics are having fun as they leapfrog the Knicks? Because the Celtics went into this season with expectations that we're not having Jason Tatum right now. It's probably a bad team, could be a good team. We'll see. They're having fun. The Pistons weren't expected to be the 1 seed this early on, or let alone into the new year. They are. The Spurs are having fun. The Thunder went on a great run. But the Thunder, of course, now 6-6 in the last 12 games. Spurs also haven't been doing their best since the NBA Cup, similar to the Magic. Point being, expectations are what can really hurt. And for some of these other teams, it's easier to say, this is awesome, look where we are. And there's going to be leapfrogging all throughout the season. But the Knicks have higher aspirations. And it's very clear that they do, because James Dolan went on WFAN yesterday and said it. He said it himself, that this team can win a championship. So when you stack it up like that, it could be, yes, things are really problematic now. Yes, there are warning signs that need to be addressed. Yes, this team is still in great position moving forward, but they lack a level of respect. And respect is also earned. It's not given. And for whatever reason, it's not there. And yet, it is there, because when you see teams saying, oh, we're circling this team on the calendar, this team being the Knicks, when you've got all these teams lined up to want to beat the Knicks, that's a compliment. That's complimentary. I mean, they don't say that about nobodies. So this is a good team, and it's very easy to forget that in the heat of things. This is the heat of things. It could also get worse. They play the Clippers. The Clippers are doing well. They're 7-1 in their last 8. The Knicks are not doing as well. So it's time to wake up. But with that in mind, we are less than, or really about a month away from the NBA trade deadline. It's February 5th. And there's some players that are out there and names that have been bandied about, of course. And we're going to go over some of them and rules and applications and all of that. So I'm fortunate enough to have Jonathan Macri on the ones and twos tonight. John, whenever you're ready, let's get started. All right. So this is the Knicks 2026 trade deadline, cap or no cap. Basically, this is not going to be the Giannis one. And the reason I wanted to do the Giannis one so as I could get the Giannis one out of the way. And that's not to say that that can't still happen. I just wanted to say, hey, if we didn't have Giannis Antetokounmpo traded anywhere, let alone New York, then let's figure it out. Let's assume that he's not going anywhere this offseason, that kind of thing, and then move it from there. That's where this mindset is, and exploring other players not named Giannis. So with that in mind, as we continue, let's look at the general objectives for the Knicks. So what are the root causes for this current skid? There are certainly talks of point of attack, defense, rim protection. The offense is looking a little bit more sluggish, but the offense as a whole obviously has been quite fantastic. Improving the defense without disrupting the offense. That is something that if you're the Knicks, you want to consider, because if you bring in a defender who is fantastic but can't shoot at all, that is going to gum up the works for the Knicks, especially if they were to keep their top 7 or not move out any non-spacers. Add better depth pieces. I mean, every year that's something that a team should do, but of course that's something that the Knicks would be benefiting from this year. Navigating the trade market with limited assets. The Knicks don't really have any first-round picks. I say don't really because unless that Wizards pick somehow conveys, which it will not, they're walking away with 2 second-round picks and then other second-round picks plus pick swaps. First-round pick swaps, I should say, but no tradable first-round picks. There are also a few expendable salaries that are making above $10 million. And how do you balance the CBA restrictions in both the short term and the long term? Because you could find a player and say, I like that player, but how does that player's money impact the grand scheme of what the Knicks may have in store for them? So let's do a little cheat sheet. Again, just kind of, if you're new here, the NBA has a salary cap, a luxury tax line, a first apron, and a second apron. Each item has a cost associated with it. So the salary cap's at $154.6 million. Luxury tax is at $187.9 million. The first apron's at $195.9 million. Second apron's at $207.8 million. How you spend dictates where you fit. Certain actions can trigger restrictions. The Knicks, in this case, are hard capped at the second apron, so they can't spend more than $207.8 million at any point this year. The Knicks cannot exceed that second apron, as mentioned. They're currently below it by $148,358. The Knicks can't take back more money than they send out in a trade. That would hard cap the Knicks at the first apron, so any deal has more money going out than coming in, which of course would mean there's more second apron space because subtract means you get a little bit more breathing room. The Knicks cannot use a traded player exception from a previous season. The only one that would be available is the Jericho Sims traded player exception. It's about $2 million. That would hard cap the Knicks at the first apron. There's no one of value that they can get for that amount anyway, so don't have to worry about that. They cannot use the biannual exception to trade for a player that is only used in free agency, and additionally, that would hard cap the Knicks at the first apron. The Knicks can indeed aggregate salaries. That's totally fine, and they can send cash in a trade. That's important because you can send up to a little over $7 million in cash this year. There are 3 main questions that I am asking this team, that I am at least considering. And they are more broad questions in nature. The first one is, will Giannis be traded this season? I know we're not going to talk much about Giannis, but we can't not. We just simply can't. Ignoring the existence of a top 3, top 4 NBA player and him possibly being a Knick or not being a Knick, even the remote chance, we can't just pretend it doesn't happen. We can't pretend it's not a real possibility. If he is traded this season, is he a Knick? If he's not, is he on the trade block this summer? And would the Knicks still pursue him? I believe they would. Second question, will the Knicks be below or above the second apron in 2026-27? The answer may be determined by this deadline. And now I'm sure you're probably thinking, well, the third question, it's got to be point of attack, rim protection. Well, I should also say there's limited flexibility with the second apron stuff for next year. But with that in mind, no. The third question I have is Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Can it work? And this is not to say you have to do something right away. Oh my God. No, it's just a general philosophy because that is what your team is essentially built around. It's Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and several players who should be performing at a high level defensively, and some who are able to do some good things on offense and a little less on the defensive end, but they can contribute and create a little bit too. Now, John talked about this a little bit in the newsletter, but in terms of Brunson and Towns with the on-off, it's not very pretty. The cohesion isn't where you want it to be with two players who are in all likelihood probably both going to the All-Star game. I mean, Towns is seeing lows in a lot of career areas, which is difficult. And his comments, I thought today, were extremely discouraging when you're this far into the season. To see that, I really didn't love that. That found that to be difficult. With that in mind, Brunson and Towns together, this is according to Cleaning the Glass, a little over 1,300 possessions offensively. They're the bee's knees, 125.1 offensive points per possession. Defense, though, 119.8. It's a difference of 5.3, plus 5.3, but 5.3. So the offense, 96th percentile. The defense, 24th. The difference, they're at 74th percentile. Brunson on, Towns off. 1,019 possessions. Offensively, 125.6 offensive points per possession. That's 96th percentile as well. Defensively, 121.9. That's the 12th percentile for defensive points per possession. Difference of only 3.8. That's the 69th percentile. Not as nice as you would want. Towns on, Brunson off. 865 possessions. Offensive points per possession, 117.3. 63rd percentile. 109.5. 90th percentile for the defensive end. That's a difference of plus 7.9, 85th percentile. Towns, of course, has really found benefits in that early second quarter, but especially early fourth quarter unit that involves Kolek, Bridges, and Clarkson. So he does find good minutes there. And then, of course, there's the Brunson and Towns off the court, only 209 possessions. It's 96.2 for offensive points per possession. That would be the 0th percentile. And the defensive points per possession, good news, 104, 98th percentile. But that's a negative 7.9, which would rank in the 18th percentile. So it's tricky. Jalen Brunson's defense was talked about a little bit more in depth on the most recent podcast that John Andrew had. And it's absolutely true. He has not been giving the effort there. It looks like he's laboring. It looks like there are times where he's not carrying as much. It doesn't mean he's not carrying as much. It just may appear as such, where the focus might be more on how do the Knicks do a little bit more ground and pound, which shifts back to the offense that the Knicks had, which is not the offense that was working for the Knicks this season. But with that in mind, unless there's a magic cure, let's take a look at the cap sheet. And it's got 14 players. As mentioned, the Knicks have $148,358 in second apron space. They could not sign a player that is earning. They couldn't sign a veteran to a minimum deal if they wanted to at this point. The prorated amount isn't there yet. But figure, well, we're going to go into some of these players a little bit more in depth later. Just kind of hit on some key points. So first is Karl-Anthony Towns. As mentioned, doesn't seem like he's having a very good time right now. The numbers do show that as a whole. Things don't feel as steady. They don't feel as consistent. Cat is earning a little over $53 million. Cat is very difficult to trade. And I feel as though, instead of feel, I should say I fear. I fear that the conversation with Cat, should this kind of general malaise continue, I fear that it's going to be similar to what the Julius Randle experience was, which was just trade him for anything, right? Just get pieces for him. Take this player and just get quantity. I just don't want to see it. It's not working. I can't do it. It's not how the Knicks have operated. If the Knicks were holding steady to Julius Randle until they couldn't really anymore because of the contract situation, the fact that didn't even really offer an extension, I fear that we're going to be in that similar spot not too long from now. And I really would just remind people that that's not how the Knicks have operated. They try to package up. They try to red paper clip it up. They don't spruce down. They want that player. They want that salary. They want it to work out here. And if it doesn't, it opens the door for different conversations. But without first round pick access other than swaps right now, there aren't a lot of players who are better than Cat, who are earning, either less than him, or if it's more than him, aggregating other salary, which the Knicks could do. But other than an Anthony Davis type, there's just not seemingly a market right now. So if you're not taking an all-NBA, 3-time all-NBA player and turning him into something better than that, I just don't think that it's a conversation for the Knicks, just based on how they've operated in the past. OG Anunoby is earning about $40 million. OG has definitely slumped. He doesn't quite look like he did, of course, earlier in the season before the hamstring came up. The Knicks have been overly cautious, as John mentioned with Deuce McBride and what he had heard, where Deuce could have played. That be the case. If you have Casey Smith, not to appeal to authority here, but I do trust the doctors who won the award for keeping players healthy. They know what they're doing. Casey Smith is one of the best. So I don't think that he rushed him back. But with that said, where is the OG that was there? Is he exhausted? If he's exhausted, why is he exhausted? Why is he laboring? What's going on? All these things. But of course, earlier OG, phenomenal. Recently, the slump has been hurting the team. But he's not the only one. Jalen Brunson, earning $34.9 million. Now, Jalen Brunson, he's not going to go anywhere. And when you talk about Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, if there were ever who will it be? We know the answer. We know the answer. It's not even worth asking the question. It's going to be the favorite son. It's going to be Jalen Brunson. It's going to be the captain. It's going to be the leader. Because of course it is. Why would it not be? He's just not going anywhere. Mikal Bridges, earning just under $25 million, signed an extension. He is trade eligible February 1st. He has been... There are times where it just feels like for someone who's got an Iron Man streak to be as invisible as he can be. Now, he's not always invisible. He's consistent, but he's consistently healthy. It's the also consistency of where is that offense? Where is that contact? The offense is maybe not flowing as much, despite how earlier things were really grooving and he was feeling great. But the lack of contact, really drawing it on both sides of the ball, that is a concern. And for a team where if you are thinking about how do we get tougher, he is a player to, of course, keep in mind. But if you're moving Mikal Bridges in some fashion, you're probably going to want a wing defender who's really good to come back. And then it begs the question, okay, well, who are you bringing back? Are you getting talent that's better? Are you getting talent that is similar? Are you getting talent similar to what we were talking about with breaking him up into other pieces and turning quality into quantity? Because again, the Knicks don't really do that. That's not what their style has been. It doesn't mean they can't adapt, but that just hasn't been their MO. Josh Hart, he's earning a little over $19 million. Hart's presence, usually not felt, and then don't always seem to go. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. This week, it's crazy how much Andrew said where I was like, cool, because I was thinking that too. I was going to put Josh Hart as give him my game ball, but I'm glad Andrew was able to do that. And I'm really glad that Josh Hart didn't get the surgery in the beginning of the season, because if he had, who knows where this team would be? Who knows where his health would be? He's working through it, and his absence, he's sorely missed. I don't think he's going anywhere, but you never know. Mitchell Robinson, earning about $13 million. He's a free agent at the end of the season. Mitch has been elite of elite in terms of offensive rebounding. The advanced metrics will tell you the defense, pretty good overall, could be better. The eye test will tell you looking a little bit more sluggish, can still move, but doesn't move with the help defense in the way that you want him to. Can still protect the rim, but a little bit more cautious there. And he is such a key piece of what this team does. There are questions that I have about durability long term. There are questions about how do you make this work this season, and you have to pay him. He's an unrestricted free agent. Doesn't mean move him, but it is a factor to consider. That is just something to keep in mind. Gershon Yabusele, earning $5.5 million, has certainly not worked out as a signing. It just hasn't. It's rather unfortunate. Would be nice to see him contribute. Not working, which is not. But with that in mind, he is, of course, an easy piece to then say, oh, move him out. That's great. Done. Okay, well, if he's as easy to move in your mind as he may be, where is the value for the team that is receiving his contract? Miles McBride, Deuce, earning just over $4 million a year. Deuce gets thrown into trade conversations a lot. Unless it's for a legitimate piece, I don't quite understand why. The Knicks shouldn't have a fear of paying him, especially if the plan is to go above the second apron the 2027-28 season. That's the year that he would be hitting free agency. It's also possible that he doesn't have to hit free agency because the Knicks can extend him. The deadline, or not the deadline, but the window to start extending him was December 30th of 2025. That's passed. It makes sense why they wouldn't, because you want to still be flexible. But with that in mind, for the amount he's making to move him, I just don't really know what you're getting unless it's a really legitimately great piece. He means that much to the team. Pacome Dadier, he may be earning more than several other players, but make no mistake, he is the 14th man, similar to his fellow countryman, Yabusele, at $2.8 million. He is a candidate to be moved. Jordan Clarkson, he is earning the veteran minimum. That is about $2.3 million. If you want to be really technical, the cash is a little over $3 million, but the cap hit, what we care about, is a little over 2.2, really about $2.3 million. The thing that I keep going back to with Jordan Clarkson is, yes, there are moments where you're just kind of wondering about what's he doing. Then there are moments of, well, yeah, of course he puts up 25 against the Cavs on Christmas Day. It's JC. From one JC to another, game recognized game. But for Clarkson, a fear that I have, the Knicks do love that creation, and he has found good moments with that second unit, as mentioned earlier, to start the second and fourth quarters. Is he a playoff performer? He doesn't have to be. You can still have guys in your roster and then shorten your bench a bit. But thinking through in terms of also people who can help you for what matters most. Because right now the Knicks are going through adversity. And I don't know about you, but while I would rather not see adversity at all, because then it would mean it's almost a utopia. It happens. Adversity happens. I would rather see that before the trade deadline than after, because you can't really fix a lot after. And this week is part of a larger sample size, but a small sample size that still sucks, but it's a larger sample size as well. But if we're talking about defense, we're talking about point of attack, when you're playing Jalen Brunson, heavy minutes, when you're playing Jordan Clarkson, some minutes, where are you eating into sealing off the perimeter to limit guys getting to the rim or being able to pull up because they are driving threats, that sort of thing. Or because they just shoot from three because the Knicks concede a lot of threes. Clarkson, he tries, it's just that's not his bread and butter. And that's something to consider if you are building a roster that includes Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. Landry Shamet, earning the same amount as Clarkson. Hopefully he comes back soon. Mike Brown talked about Landry Shamet's ball screen navigation. It's been fine this year. He is right, though, that in previous years, Shamet's been pretty good at getting around screens. This year, like I said, he's been fine. But would be nice to have him back. Would be nice to see him healthy. Of course, he can space the floor. He still makes good reads. Not a great defender, but he's a smart player. He can navigate those screens, like I mentioned, and he can show that level of effort, and he can be a trailer in transition as well. Tyler Kolek is earning just over $2 million, really about $2.2 million. The thing about Kolek that is fascinating to me is if you're the Knicks, and we'll get a little bit more into this later, do you push him to the front of the line for the games that are important, or do you recognize that maybe there's still more seasoning to be had? But Kolek, of course, is playing a vital role. I would not have thought it would be on the defensive end more than the offensive end, but it is. And his value has been very immense there. Ariel Hukporti, he's earning just about $2 million. It's a shade under. Thing about Hukporti is he's a third center. I can't help but wonder, even though it's reported that the Knicks do like him, I'm sure that they do. I wonder if we are going to see Hukporti effectively be this year's Jericho Sims, which is, hey, we have a big man who next year is looking to make something. Now, there's a good chance that the amount that player would make is the veteran minimum, right? So, fine. But if another center who is better than Hukporti can be had for the veteran minimum, then wouldn't you just try to go after that player? So then if you're letting Hukporti walk potentially, you could have used him. You could have used his salary in aggregation with another salary to help get you where you need to go. And then finally, Mo Diawara. Diawara has been very surprising in great ways. The three has looked better than anticipated. The defense, at least with the effort, it's there. There's polish that needs to be done. Of course, he's only signed for this year. He's at 1.3, just under $1.3 million. He probably hits free agency. I mean, he will hit restricted free agency. And I don't believe a team will say, hey, Mo Diawara, here's some money, leave the Knicks. But you never know. That's the risk that the Knicks took. So that's the 14-man lineup or 14-man roster. Just run through that very quickly. Let's get a little bit more into the weeds. Let's talk about next year. Next year, the Knicks have 9 players under contract. There's 9 really guaranteed salaries. I say guaranteed because Yabusele would be opting in should he be on the team. That means really that the Knicks have $4 million in first apron space and $17 million in second apron space. And they would have 9 players. That would mean that they would have to fill 5 roster spots. They'd have $17 million to work with, assuming they don't hard cap themselves at the first apron. That's doable. But there's a problem. Mitchell Robinson. If you want to bring Mitchell Robinson back, let's say he made $15 million. Now, you're looking at the Knicks are well over the first apron. That's fine. That's not a problem. It's okay that they're $11 million over, but they now would be just under $2 million under the second apron. So just to fill out the rest of the roster, if you moved nobody, right? If you moved absolutely nobody, then you would be going over the second apron. And maybe that's fine, but I don't think that the Knicks are going over the second apron to run it back. So with that in mind, though, if you're above the second apron, and I should say there's salary where, yes, if you moved Yabusele, if you moved Dadier, just these 2 players, which the Knicks likely could do, getting that money off the books, that's 5.8 really, and about $3 million. You're looking at a little under 8.8 million. So you're probably thinking, great, $10 million in savings. You'd have 5, 6, 7, 8 players on the books. Okay. 8 players, about $10 million to spend. You'd have a first round draft pick. That would eat into it a little bit. You can't use a taxpayer mid-level exception because then you'd probably not have enough room to squeeze in the back end of your roster. It's tough. That's where the challenge is. Okay, you want to keep the gang. You want to keep your favorite players. You can do that. What's the cost? What limits are there? So when thinking above the 2026-27 second apron, you're targeting players who are due for a raise or already under contract next season. So if you want to be above that second apron, you're comfortable getting guys who are going to be free agents this year, who are going to get paid, which means next year, though, you can't aggregate any salary. It's impossible in this case, if we're going back to the Giannis portion, it's impossible to not aggregate salary and to get Giannis. Something to keep in mind. Realistically, only one opportunity with this core to go above the second apron. Just based on the rules required, teams are not going over the second apron twice in 4 seasons. It hurts them too much. The draft pick punishment, too punitive. And if you're going to go above it, you might as well go for broke. And I don't think the Knicks are positioning themselves to go for broke necessarily, unless, of course, they were to trade for players who are free agents this summer. They want to go below the second apron next year. If you're trading for that 2026 unrestricted free agent at the deadline, you'll likely want to retain him. Same could be said about restricted free agent. But if they're making a lot and if they're good, you want them back, right? But that would probably cause a numbers crunch. Again, let's say the Knicks were to trade for a player earning $10 million this year who's going to be a free agent. And that player is likely looking at a payday of $15 million. Just as an example. We already saw how close things were with just getting Mitchell Robinson in the door and filling out the rest of the roster. How are you going to make it work where you're bringing in a rotation piece who, mind you, at that price point is not a star, probably isn't a starter, probably is a bench player who's paid well, who could see time as a starter. But you're not going to be able to be below the second apron with ease. So then you have to make other moves to ensure that happens. It's very tricky. If you're staying below the second apron in 2026-27, my recommendation is to find someone with your margin pieces. And if you look at past precedents, you can identify potential targets. We'll see that in a moment. You'd also have access to the taxpayer mid-level exception. You wouldn't have that with the ability to go over the second apron. But it's possible the Knicks also just don't want to use it, even though it's worth an estimated $6.1 million. Reason being, no, not because they've been scorned in any way with Yabusele, but because that numbers crunch is real. Now there's a hard cap. You want to bring everyone back. Now you're adding $6 million to the fray. It's just a lot. It should not be a driving factor in their decision-making. That should be much further down the list. So again, if you wanted to re-sign Robinson without Yabusele and Dadier, again, you could do it. Now you'd have your top 7 of guys: Towns, OG, Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Robinson, Deuce, and Kolek being the 8th here. $10.7 million. That money goes quick if you are filling out the rest of your roster with 6 guys. Again, keep in mind, the veteran minimum for a player earning 2 years or more, who has 2 years or more of experience, is 2.3 this year. It's going to go up next year. Just signing 2 of those guys, let's say it's 2.5. 2 of those guys, $5 million eaten up right away. Now you're at 5.7. And you still have to fill up your roster with 4 other players. Yes, you can get around it like how the Knicks have tried last year, which was sign 12 players. But it's the players you're signing are going to be year 0 guys in all likelihood. It's going to be like Ariel Hukporti. It's going to be like Dink Pate. It's going to be very difficult to round out your roster. It's hard. So these are the things to just consider as the Knicks move along with their pieces. And here's the depth chart. As of right now, when healthy, Brunson, Hart, Bridges, and Obi Towns. And on the bench, of course, you got Clarkson, McBride, Shamet, Diawara, Robinson. And then you have Kolek, Dadier, Yabusele, and Hukporti. Kolek, of course, we'll see what happens when Shamet's back. We haven't seen him playing significantly while Shamit's been healthy. So interesting to see where that goes. Again, talked about the 2025-26 cap sheet. We've already gone over it. Just wanted a refresher of the 148,358 in second apron space and everyone there. So draft picks. Talked about how the Knicks don't have first round picks. They have first round pick swaps this year in 2030 and in 2032. In 2028, pick swap goes to the better of the Knicks and Nets pick goes to Brooklyn. In terms of second round picks, in all likelihood, the Knicks have the Washington Wizards second round pick this year. Should be a good one. They also have the Pistons second round pick. So Detroit winning is not exactly fun in that sense, but it's the least favorable of Detroit, Milwaukee, and Orlando. So if Detroit decides to come down to earth and Milwaukee and Orlando decide to not be the best versions of themselves, that'd be swell, but who knows? Knicks have their own pick as well. Next year, 2027, Knicks own the Wizards second round pick again, and then they have the second and third most favorable of OKC, Houston, Indiana, and Miami. I just assumed in this case it's Houston, Indiana. May not be. Could be. It's probably not going to be OKC, but you just never know. So it's the second and third most favorable. And of course, the Knicks have their own pick there too. Then the Knicks have the Celtics pick in 2028 and the Pacers pick in 2028. Reason to say it's the Pacers pick. It's the least favorable of Indiana and Phoenix. So if you're projecting Indiana to be a better team in 2028 than Phoenix, that's the pick that would be going to New York. Then the Knicks don't have a second round pick in 2029, 2030, 2031, but they do have their pick in 2032, their second round pick. Now, setting expectations. This group can win a championship. That's James Dolan said just yesterday. So that should tell you where the boss believes this team has the talent, or that this team has the talent to do what must be done. I fully expect the Knicks to see what he is saying and try to answer that the best that they can. And maybe it is with this core. Maybe it's not. Maybe there are other players. But you have to give to get. And I know it's said a lot, but you do. You just do. So many trades. And look, I'm guilty of thinking of it as well. I'm a fan. So many trades where a lot comes in. That's great. But what's really being sent down to value? And that's the tricky part. And if you don't like that player, like I said, they probably won't bring back a needle mover. Good players are in high demand. That is an issue. Fit and salaries have to be taken into account as we've labored. You have to abide by apron limitations this year and keep next year in mind as well. And playoff experience matters. You're not going to necessarily want players who aren't battle tested. Sure, some might not have the experience that you're looking for. A player like Josh Hart plays really hard. Where was the playoff experience before he got here? But the Knicks are in a different point now than they were when they got him. And of course, Josh Hart was a shot in the arm for the Knicks. And the Knicks could use a shot in the arm, absolutely, especially in this moment. But having guys who aren't necessarily 82-game players, but who are 16-game players, that's important. With that said, there are going to be times where you do need these players who are built for the playoffs to participate and to help you out in the regular season. So let's look at past precedents for in-season trades as a reminder. And some of these are going to be, I really don't remember that trade, but okay, I guess they did that. 2020, 2021, Knicks traded Dennis Smith Jr. and a second-round pick for Derrick Rose. They also traded Ignas Brazdeikis and Austin Rivers for Terrence Ferguson, Vincent Poirier, Emir Preljic, and 2 seconds. 2021-22, the Knicks traded Louis Lavieri for Denzel Valentine and the rights to Bradley Newly and Wang Jalen. Then they traded Kevin Knox and what was really 2 seconds. It was a protected Hornets first, but it didn't convey, for Cam Reddish, Solomon Hill. Then the next year, 2023, the Knicks traded Ryan Arcidiacono, Cam Reddish, Svi Mikhailuk, Ante Tomic, and a first for Josh Hart, Danny Diaz, and Bojan Dubljevic. 2023-24, Knicks traded RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and a second, which turned out to be at the top of the draft. That was the Pistons pick for OG Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, and Malachi Flynn. And then they traded Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, Ryan Arcidiacono. They did you dirty again. Malachi Flynn for Bojan Bogdanovic, and Alec Burks. And then last season, the Knicks traded Jericho Sims and Matthias Lasort for DeLon Wright, Hugo Besson, and Cash. Anything can happen this season, right? The general vibe of the 5 years of data that we have is that the Knicks in season, 4 out of the 5 years, do something that's more marginal. And when I mean marginal, I don't mean the player they acquire is a margin guy. It means, kind of taking the end of the roster, the salary of the guys on your bench that you really don't utilize, sprinkling in the draft equity that you need and getting a superior player, then filling those back seats of the roster however you need to. When the time is right, when the prorated amount for the minimum salaries goes down, all of that. This is why it seems to make sense of, okay, if you're going to take the Yabuseles and Daddiers and anyone else and aggregate them and get someone, you can do that. But that's probably not bringing you back a great player, because great players make a lot of money. And great players who don't make a lot of money usually don't get traded. And if they do get traded, it hurts like hell because you just gave something up that you really wish you hadn't because you got something good. The Knicks aren't in that position really, unless they do something really drastic. And they could do both. They could do something drastic. They could do something on the smaller end. But the data points that we have from in-season trades, and of course, some of this is before the new CBA, before aprons and restrictions, all of that. But that's to consider. So what could the Knicks need? Well, experienced physical talent that can bolster New York's depth. What does that mean? Well, I mean, how much room is there for a consistent rotation player when everyone's healthy? We went over the depth chart. That's starting 5, okay. And Deuce, yep. And Mitch, okay. Who else? Shamit's going to see time. Is Kolek? Clarkson? Diawara? I mean, where is it going to be? Where's that space where you're already running 8 to 9 man rotation? So are you taking someone out? Are you trading one of the 8 to 9 guys that's there and moving them out, getting someone to soak up those minutes? That's what's worth wondering. On the offensive side, free throw rate is a problem for the Knicks. They're 21st overall this season in free throw rate. Again, really hasn't hampered them because of how good their offense has been. It's a top offense. So they're finding ways to do it without getting to the rim and getting that call. But of course, it would be nicer if they did. It is a problem that Cat doesn't get the calls, but he doesn't. And here we are. On the defensive side, effective field goal percentage, defending efficient shots. Knicks are 22nd overall this season. Turnover percentage, 19th this season. They are not creating turnovers. That is a problem. It's the screen navigations, it's deflections, it's all of it, the activity, and some of it could be schematic, but where is that? Where is the pressure to be able to let a player like Bridges then be able to roam the way that he should? And then defensive rebounding percentage. It's 9th this season. That's good. That's really good. However, in the last 2 months, so since November 6th, it has been 23rd overall. There's been very little effort. It's been tough. It just sucks. It sucks to see the team get punked on the glass by the other team. But now you know what it feels like when we do it to them, is what they probably are thinking. But those are things to consider. So this is a little bit, of course, of, yes, you want to do some things on offense, but it is absolutely how do you address the defense. But you want to find someone who can maybe mask point of attack, and also someone who can perhaps protect the rim and get more rebounds, and not mess anything up offensively in terms of inefficiency. So Question is, who's even available? Well, I guess this slide's going to reveal all at once. The play-in tournament's decreased market supply. It just has. Playoff teams, they can still trade with each other. We talked about Jericho Sims for DeLon Wright. That happened last year. The Knicks and the Bucks, both playoff teams that said, here's a player out of the rotation. And the other team said, here's a player out of the rotation. And they said, hey, well, I have a great idea. And swap them. And let's also include other teams. We could do that and make a 4-team trade. Cool. How many teams will be sellers? And of those teams, what talent do they have? And what salaries actually work? And a side note, well, not even because it's right below. How does an acquisition this year impact spending next year? We talked about below the second apron, above the second apron next year. So you're trying to find such a specific player. You're narrowing it down, but it depends. Are you going above or below? Now, mind you, you may be thinking, well, Jeremy, couldn't you acquire a player who's set to free agency, who's a good player? And then this summer, you happen to make a big trade and you aggregate salary to do it. So you're hard capped to the second apron. And now you can't sign that player. What if you just let them walk? I mean, they were good for you this year. You could do that. You could also sign and trade them out. But if you sign and trade them out, because signing and trading a player out hard caps you the second apron, you're already hard capped there if you aggregated salaries. It's not going to get you very much. Sure, it could bring back a trade player exception that you could try to use. But if you're close to the second apron as is, what good is it really doing you? And then the other thing is, well, are you giving assets for just this year? And then you're making a big trade next year and you're saying the assets that we used for this year, it was a rental, right? We just wanted to rent, but now we're really going to be good. Well, if you're thinking now you're really going to be good next year, potentially, and you fear that, or you feel like this player is going to not be able to stay, potentially don't bring them back, or potentially don't trade for them. That is where it's at. So it's really trying to find this ideal player, and it's hard. It's really tough. And let's look at these teams that are tanking and not tanking. I made a Venn diagram. The teams that are definitely tanking: the Pacers, the Wizards, despite them winning recently, the Nets, the Hornets, the Kings, and despite where they are, you have to assume the Jazz, primarily because if it lands outside of the top 8, it goes to Oklahoma City. They are so close, they might as well just tank for another year. I've got the Blazers in the middle, sort of leaning tanking, because their pick would actually go to Chicago if it were 15-30. They've had some injuries. They do want to win. I think they're also content not doing that this year. So works out. If they don't make the playoffs, they get a lottery pick, and then they get to try for next year. And the not tanking section, I've got the Bucks and the Bulls on the periphery of the tanking line, but in the not tanking section. For the Bucks, the tanking incentive is you have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You're telling teams we're not moving Giannis Antetokounmpo. My question is, okay, what are you trading to make your team better? Are you trading that 2031, 2032 pick? Are you trading the swap rights? If you're not, what do you think you're really going to get? Because you have no second round picks. If you're the Bulls, they're always in this space just because they should probably do it, but they just don't. So that's why I assume they won't, but Stranger Things, not just a show, well, no longer on Netflix. The Clippers, not tanking. They don't have a draft pick, and they're playing really well, and they might beat the Knicks tomorrow. The Pelicans almost beat the Knicks the other day. They are not tanking. Don't understand why they would be tanking. They traded their first round pick. They are quite bad. They gain no benefit from leaning into being bad. With that said, could they find ways to say, okay, you know what? We get it. We're bad. We accept the fact that there is no opportunity for us to make the playoffs. The pick is going to be what the pick is going to be. Let's just prioritize our future. They could do that. Yes, absolutely. It depends. And of course, the Dallas Mavericks, who almost beat the Knicks in Dallas, seems like they're going for it, even though they want to move Anthony Davis. Probably doesn't really matter. because they'll likely wind up picking around 10th unless they get lottery luck again like they did last year with Cooper Flagg. So those are the teams. Again, you could find teams that are willing to trade with you that have players of value, not disputing that at all. But there aren't a lot of sellers because of how close teams are. You got 20 teams that are going to make the play-in, and then you got a few on the periphery that are close enough. So how many teams are left that are truly sellers? Jalen Brunson. Let's talk about him quickly. Not as a trade asset, but the Knicks have been consistently searching for a backup point guard come playoff time. Teams prefer depth at the lead guard spot. It seems every year they have tried to find two players to play the lead guard spot behind Jalen Brunson. Last year's playoffs, it was Cameron Payne and DeLon Wright. The year before, it was Deuce McBride and Alec Burks. The year before that, it was Emmanuel Quickley and Derrick Rose. So it's been a revolving door, and it will be a revolving door again. That's not Deuce McBride trade. It is if you have Tyler Kolek here, are you looking for another point guard, whether it is before or whether ahead or behind of Tyler Kolek? And again, does New York see Deuce McBride or Jordan Clarkson as lead guards based on how they've functioned? It doesn't seem to be the case. I would also say that the Malcolm Brogdon signing was kind of the hope that the Knicks had of, okay, let's find someone who can be more of a floor general. That's not what Deuce or Clarkson do very well. They both have their roles offensively and Deuce defensively too. It's just not really who they are. Can do it, but you want to find someone who's a little bit more up to the task, which gets us to Tyler Kolek. He's developed as a player this season, absolutely. Can he be trusted during the playoffs? That's the question. Playoffs are a different animal. You can say, I believe in Tyler Kolek. You can also acknowledge that Tyler Kolek has had 0 minutes of playoff experience. And if you're going with Jalen Brunson and Tyler Kolek and you're saying, screw it, just Deuce McBride can fill in, sort of get Jordan Clarkson minutes, however you want to move around. Okay. If Tyler Kolek gets hurt, you don't have any protection there, really. And again, the Knicks they wanted to have several point guards. And it's a question of trust because the goal is to give Brunson in the playoffs adequate rest. It's like 8 to 12 minutes so he can stay fresh. And we've seen Kolek and Brunson play together. Brunson has played with smaller guards before. It's hard to do that if you're hemorrhaging points with Brunson on the bench. But again, Kolek has been good defensively, so that's not necessarily the problem. The problem has been more for Kolek offensively, in the half court especially. And when the game slows down in the playoffs, you want to have someone that you can trust in the half court. So the question here is, if the Knicks add a backcourt player, what role would he play? And then it's, do the Knicks see Tyler Kolek as a backup to Jalen Brunson or as a backup's backup in the playoffs? Do they want to find someone better than Tyler Kolek, which reduces Tyler Kolek's time, or are they comfortable pushing Kolek to the front of the backup position and getting someone to backseat him? That's what New York has to figure out. So let's look at guards who are earning $25 million or less. Why am I starting at $25 million or less? Well, quite frankly, I just don't see the Knicks getting a guard or really most players that are earning big bucks unless they are a legitimate player. But let's throw some names out here, right? And these are not all point guards, to be clear. Colin Sexton, he's earning $19 million. Quick math tells us that's Josh Hart or that's Mitchell Robinson and Yabusele and probably a little bit of extra salary to make it work. Doubtful. Malik Monk, similar situation. That's Josh Hart money. That's Mitchell Robinson, Yabusele money. It's one of the two guys of your top 7 to add him. Don't see that. Kevin Huerter, he's not in the same conversation of the point guard as mentioned. Again, same thing. Hart, or in this case, Robinson and Yabusele, salary-wise. Bogdan Bogdanovic earning $16 million. Once again, Josh Hart or Mitchell Robinson and Yabusele. Don't see either of those guys being moved for that type of player. Dante DiVincenzo. Hello, old friend. This is pretty much just going to be Mitchell Robinson money to make it work. Could it be Deuce and Yabusele and Daddy? Sure. Yes. But then you're having potential issues with the second apron. That's essentially a move to say we're comfortable going over it. Maybe the Knicks are comfortable there, but that is a concern. Jaden Ivey, that's at $8.2 million. Apologies, should have mentioned salaries for some of these guys earlier than just adding them up. But Jaden Ivey, $8.2 million. He's a restricted free agent. First of all, Pistons and Knicks don't see them trading with each other when they're very close to each other, but not as close anymore in the standings. He's also slated to hit restricted free agency. I don't know if the Knicks really want to pay Jaden Ivey. I think that's probably something the Pistons would have more interest in, or that they would have more interest in trading to another team for a legitimate piece, and that other team figures it out with Ivey. Tre Mann, he's earning $8 million. He really has not been a factor. He signed for a 3-year, $24 million deal this year. And I just don't see him being an option, but sure, that's the Yabusele and Dadier combination if you want to go there. Then Colin Gillespie, who I put up there for fun. For fun as in he's just not going anywhere. I had my eye on him early in the season. Thought, if the Suns stink and they want to do something, great. They don't stink, and he's a key player for them, so he's not going anywhere. And if you're watching this and you see an asterisk next to Dante DiVincenzo, that's because that's the apron salary that's listed. The thing about Dante DiVincenzo that you have to keep in mind is he has unlikely bonuses worth up to $750,000. So second apron space, now you have to fill out the rest of your roster, and you have to consider moves that could, or anything that would trigger the bonuses that counts towards the apron. So if you trigger those bonuses and they go above the second apron, can't happen. So you have to plan for it ahead of time and assume that they happen. And then if they don't, they don't. But you have to create enough space for it to happen. So none of those guards really work. Now, if you want to go above the second apron, Dennis Schroeder, right? He's 32 years old. There were talks of him potentially being an option. He's earning $14.1 million this season. The money tells us if there were indeed conversations between the Knicks and the Kings, that involves Mitchell Robinson, because it probably doesn't involve Josh Hart. He is under contract, he being Dennis Schroeder, for $14.8 million next year. He's also under contract for $15.5 million the following year. He's 32 years old this year. Wouldn't really love that for the Knicks. Then there's Kobe White. He's 26 years old. He's earning $12 million this season. He's an unrestricted free agent this summer. I would anticipate that he will make more than $12 million. If you're the Knicks, you're saying, cool. But the Knicks have not really, I don't want to say ever, but it kind of is ever, been cool with giving players who play directly behind Jalen Brunson a bag. They didn't do it with Emmanuel Quickly. If Tyler Kolek's here next year, are they going to extend him? Because that's the last year of team control. Because if they do a team option with Kolek, then he hits unrestricted free agency, versus if they decline the team option after the 2026-27 season, then he is a restricted free agent, but then he costs money. So that's something to consider. And then Jose Alvarado, he's 28 years old. He's earning $4.5 million this season. He has a player option next year for $4.5 million this season as well. Of course, he could opt out and sign a more expensive deal. That would mean the Knicks go over the second apron in order to retain him so that he's not a rental. Now, if they want to go below the second apron next year for guards, Jose Alvarado is 28 years old. He's earning $4.5 million, player option next year, 4.5. You could opt in and then 6 months later, extend him after the trade. Russell Westbrook, he is on a minimum salary. It's $2.3 million. And since the name is already here, because I guess it didn't animate the way I wanted to, Chris Paul, 40 years old, earning a minimum salary, same amount as Russell Westbrook. Chris Paul seems unplayable. If you got him here, you're really not doing much there. He's definitely behind Tyler Kolek. Russell Westbrook is harder because Russ is actually been having a kind of okay season. He's shot well from the corner. He's made plays. He's active-ish on defense. He's engaged, and when he's engaged, he's a productive, good player, but it's the minutes. Yes, he will drive relentlessly. That's great, but how many minutes do you have with Russ? And can you trust him come playoff time? Because if you can't, it gets a little bit trickier. So harder to find exactly what you want and what these names can do for you. Let's shift to wing forward. How might the Knicks allocate playoff minutes at the wing or the forward spot? Well, assuming all three players are still here, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, each player would likely see at least 32 minutes per game. All can see time as a wing and or a forward. What I mean by this is I don't expect to see Mikal Bridges playing the forward, right? But it's kind of a sliding scale on or a spectrum, if you will, of where these guys are. Hart is going to be sort of playing all over the place. Anunoby can handle both, but these players are going to take time. If Karl-Anthony Towns is still here, would he be paired with a center? He struggles on the perimeter, absolutely, but the team's defensive numbers are good when he's paired with a rim protector. The thing is, he's primarily played without a rim protector. I'm curious if that is on purpose or if that is because their best rim protector, Mitchell Robinson, has not been as available, and they spread the time a little bit more than that. Another wing forward would be a nice luxury, right? I see it a lot. Ooh, the Knicks just need a wing. They just need a big body. They need some guy who can do that. You've seen it too, I'm sure. Maybe you've thought it. And the question is there a market for one? Is there playing time for one? And is there one who fits New York's system? So let's look at wings and forwards who are earning $25 million or less. Miles Bridges, he's earning $25 million. Do not see him as a fit from an efficiency standpoint and based on how he has played. He just catch and shoot. He's not their type of player. Trey Murphy, he is earning $25 million. I do not see why the Pelicans would trade for Trey Murphy unless they're receiving, say, Mikal Bridges. And even then, I don't really know if that's going to be the case. They have Trey Murphy on a great deal. He's younger. It's been talked about that they want, conveniently, a Mikal Bridges or Desmond Bane type of package for Trey Murphy. So not quite sure what the Knicks can offer there, unless it's, oh, well, what if we gave you the product of that package? But I don't necessarily foresee that being the answer. Herb Jones, he's earning $14 million. Similar with New Orleans, he's having a down season. Is this the year that you want to move him? If you are New Orleans, and if you're the Knicks, let's say he were on the table, you love the defense, but how concerned are you about the shot? Because you have better spacers around. There's more gravity. But that's still a bit of a problem if he's not hitting shots and if he's not staying healthy. Josh Green, earning $13.7 million, just returned from injury. Just doesn't seem like a Knick type of player, not someone who they like. Matisse Thybulle, earning 11.6, consistently injured. So salary-wise, to get 11.5, trading Mitch for him, I wouldn't recommend it. Hard to get up there in salary without doing a 4-for-1 trade. If you see a 4-for-1 trade, I know that we talked about how the Knicks did a 4-for-1 trade before. It's really tough. It's not impossible, but it's really tough to do. Najee Marshall. Seen Najee Marshall quite a bit. Defensively, he's very good. He's a good playmaker. He can do some things with the ball. He can make plays on the defensive end as well. A couple things. First, if you are Dallas and you want to win, you're probably not parting with Najee Marshall. Second is from a spacing standpoint, Marshall has consistently been a below average 3-point shooter. The year he did well was his contract year. So worked out nicely. Not a high volume guy either. His rookie year, he shot well, but he barely played and he didn't shoot a whole lot. So the argument against that is, well, if you got him, look what Peter Patton did for Josh Hart. Look what he could potentially do for Najee Marshall. Absolutely. But I don't know if the Mavs even want to give him up. And if you're the Knicks, who are you trading? You're trading Deuce? You're trading Mitch? Is Yabu Sele and Flotsam and some second-round picks like the Wizards picks, is that getting it done when you have team control for Najee Marshall? I don't think it does. It doesn't hurt enough. Similar with Max Christie, his teammate, great catch-and-shoot player, does well on offense. Defense, he's earning $7.7 million. Again, Nico Harrison's not there, so the Mavs can do as they please. But I don't think that they necessarily look to move him because he is a good spacer around Cooper Flagg. And if they want to win games, Christie can help them within the flow of the offense. If they're also welcoming Kyrie Irving back, well, you leave Max Christie open because of the gravity that Irving and Flagg possess. Christie can score a little bit more there. So don't see him necessarily going. And then Saddiq Bey. A lot of Knicks fans want Saddiq Bey. A lot of Knicks fans talk about Saddiq Bey. He's earning $6.1 million. Saddiq Bey did a really great job of auditioning for why he's a good player for the Knicks in the first quarter. And then proceeded to show for the other 3 quarters why maybe he's not the best option. I think for Saddiq Bey, you're not thinking about the defense. You're thinking about a scorer who's often a bit more inefficient than you would like. He's a big body, and he went to Villanova. But he fills a role. Again, if you're the Pelicans, their starting lineup with Saddiq Bey also has been working a bit more. It hasn't resulted in wins, but they're forming cohesion. So it may sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, not trying to. On one hand, you have a player who's working for the Pelicans and doing well. And he's kind of historically been a little bit more inefficient. On the other hand, you have the Knicks who, yes, with the right infrastructure, could help him. But from a spacing perspective, from a what is he offering defensively, very little. And you have to really hope that what you get from him is that spacing. And it's often not what you want. He doesn't strike me as that fit. Salary-wise, of course. But it just doesn't seem like the fit to me. And hey, if the Knicks trade for him, I'll be a bit perplexed outside of the size factor, but I don't see him helping on the wing. Really, and I mean that's kind of what he does. But really, I don't see him helping at the point of attack, and I don't see him helping at the rim. But that doesn't mean that you can't look for a wing, of course. But when you're considering the guys who are in the rotation and the minutes that are there, maybe it's not the best investment. Above the 2026-27 second apron, if you're looking for wings or forwards and you're cool with not having any restrictions next year, money is no object, spend, baby, spend. Ayo Dosunmu, 26 years old. He's earning $7.5 million this season, and he'll be a 2026 unrestricted free agent. Dosunmu, very good ball screen navigator, really good. Defensively, not great. The numbers do not shake out well. I haven't watched a ton of Dosunmu, I will be completely honest with you. I would imagine the film would show, again, someone who is active, but a lot of the little things with the point of attack, it's not really showing up. The offensive side, it feels like every other year you get a different Dosunmu. One year he's shooting the lights out. The other year he's a mess offensively. The next year he's shooting quite well. So there's just not a whole lot of consistency there. And you have to pay him. It's not a problem to pay him. You can do that if you want to go above the second apron. Tari Eason, 24 years old, earning $5.7 million this season, 2026 restricted free agent. The question that I am asking is, why are the Houston Rockets trading Tari Eason? They are in a situation where next year, right, because they're hard capped at the first apron, they don't have to worry about Tari Eason's contract next year. They could move him ahead. They could worry about a team like Brooklyn or Washington giving him a big offer and prying him away. Could happen. Sure. Lakers, absolutely, if they went the cap space route. The Jazz, sure, why not? But the Rockets also have Fred VanVleet. He's got a $25 million player option. My instinct tells me he's going to decline it because he took the haircut to bring Kevin Durant in. Kevin Durant's in now. Is he going to take less just so Tari Eason can get paid? I would be a little surprised. So if you're the Rockets, okay, you're probably paying VanVleet more, even though he's coming off of injury. VanVleet also does have leverage here because even though he probably doesn't leave, he could. If he leaves, you don't have the ability to replace his salary slot because you got to pay Tari Eason, and you don't really have cap space anyway. So VanVleet can hold the team hostage if he wants to. But with Eason, I just don't see why the Rockets move on from him. He's really good. And yeah, he'd be a great fit for the Knicks. He'd be a great fit for pretty much every team. But he fits for the Rockets, and they're trying to win a title too. So I don't see that. Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis, 26 years old. Talked about quite a bit, earning $2.3 million this season. He is a 2026 unrestricted free agent. Keon Ellis is so fascinating to me as a player because grades out really well with the advanced metrics, doesn't play for the Kings. And we could say, well, that's an institutional thing. Maybe it is. But also, how many front offices and how many coaches do you go through before you say, okay, are we that wrong? Like, is their governor really saying, don't play Keon Ellis? Maybe, because he does have a habit of meddling. But is Scott Perry looking to not do anything with Keon Ellis? Because right now, if they don't play him, they're sabotaging his value, and he's an unrestricted free agent. So why would he stay? But then his value's low, so you could try to play him, and maybe that gets his value higher. But then you're trading him to another team. And if you're trading to another team, the risk for them is this player could walk. So what if he's a rental? And then it's worth asking, how much is Keon Ellis really going to make? And is Keon Ellis making 10, 12, $15 million? The stats are good. The production in general isn't necessarily there. So it's worth wondering, is this someone who's going to earn a ton? Or is this someone who maybe the market freezes him out a bit and he gets the taxpayer mid-level exception? But maybe a cap space team says, why not? Why shouldn't we? We're the Washington Wizards. Why don't we just pay Keon Ellis more than we should? We have plenty of money to spend. So that's a possibility. So if you're the Knicks, do you want to get into that battle potentially? Do you want to try to test that market with an unrestricted free agent? The Knicks have really done it 3 times. OG Anunoby, and they re-signed him to a contract larger than the extension they could. Isaiah Hartenstein, and they gave him the most money that they could offer, and he went to Oklahoma City. And what will be, potentially, if he's not traded, Mitchell Robinson. I'd say they did it with Mitchell Robinson the first time, but his salary was so little, and the amount they could give him, he made more than that, so it didn't really work out, and they were able to get him on a descending deal too. So if you're the Knicks, are you willing to tempt fate? And if another team says, well, here's $15 to $20 million, do you say, all right, cool, if you're the Knicks? I don't know if you do. Again, some of these slides, they just appear. So if you're listening on audio, don't worry about it. If the Knicks want to be below the 2026-27 second apron, another option. Kelly Oubre, he's 30 years old. He's earning $8.3 million, 8.4. He's an unrestricted free agent this year. Oubre doesn't shoot well. To me, the reason you get Oubre is the Knicks need a player of his size and his archetype. And then it's like, cool, well, that's not Kelly Oubre. That's a different player. You're just getting someone who matches the ideal description but doesn't actually do what you want him to do. He's not going to be a good catch and shoot player. He's not going to defend at a high level. What are you really doing it for? But sure, financially, Yabusele out. Dadier out, that at least gets you close if it doesn't get you there. Although it should, because I think it's about 5.5 plus 2.9. So that should just about do it if you wanted to do it. Nicolas Batum, he's 37 years old. He's earning $5.6 million this season. He's got a $5.9 million team option next year. He actually has a 15% trade bonus, and he can veto any trade. I've seen his name amongst fans as a target, and I think that the trade veto is the no trade clause is definitely not being realized, because Batum has very much wanted to be with the Clippers. He's been there consistently. So now that they're winning more games and they're doing better, sure, the Knicks have a better record. We'll see what happens in the game tomorrow. Not that that would be the determining factor, but I just don't think he personally wants to go anywhere. He has the power to just say, I'm staying here all season. And then Justin Champagnie, another player. He's 24 years old. He's earning $2.3 million this season. He's earning 2.7 next year. It's fully it's fully non-guaranteed. And the year after that, it's a team option. It's $3 million. Justin Champagnie, a reminder, this is the twin who plays for the Wizards, not Julian Champagnie, who decided to hit a bajillion threes against the Knicks. Champagnie has trouble shooting, but rebounds really well. His brother on the Spurs has no trouble shooting, but does have trouble rebounding. Funny distinction there. Put them together. Maybe they are the greatest three-point shooting and rebounding players ever, or one of the worst. For Justin Champagnie, in terms of fit, it's just a question where if you're the Knicks, are you awarding playing time? Maybe not. If he's not playing, yes, good depth. That's great, but tough to do. So I don't think he'd be the likeliest of options, but he has the salary to help you at least lock in there. So then it's worth asking, though, what might the front office value in a big man? And there are a couple different archetypes that I want to talk about. Both are brought to you by Basketball Index. First is a stretch big. It's a decent offensive rebounder, strong catch and shoot player. This is like Gershon Yabusele. This player is typically not going to be the best defensively. I don't have to tell you why this might fit the Gershon Yabusele conversation. Then there's the roll and cut big. They're high offensive rebounding percentage, big rebounders. They protect the rim. They cause a lot of disruption. They protect the paint really nicely. Players avoid it like it's the plague because they don't want to go near that type of player. They're usually lower usage. Again, they're rolling and they're cutting more. They don't have the ball in their hands a ton. They're less likely to be a floor spacer. If they're really good at rebounding, it doesn't mean they can't space the floor, but it means that their focus is more on attacking the basket. Player, that would be an example. Mitchell Robinson, Ariel Hukporti, Trey Jemison, those guys who, Jericho Sims types. Those are roll and cut bigs. The non-star stretch bigs in the playoffs, because there's some stretch bigs who show out. I mean, Basketball Index, I believe, calls them more versatile bigs, like the Chet Holmgrens, the Nikola Jokic's, the Karl Anthony Townses of the world. But we're looking at the players who aren't stars, because that's the level that we're trying to figure out. So stretch bigs who don't defend are often exposed in the playoffs. It's a problem. Kendrick Williams, for example, he averaged 15.3 minutes per game in the regular season, averaged 5.9 minutes per game in the playoffs, finished 11th out of 13 for non-garbage time minutes. Dean Wade, I guess you could categorize him as a stretch big, but he's also a little bit of a forward, kind of in between. He averaged 20.8 minutes per game in the regular season last year, averaged 15.2 minutes per game in the playoffs, finished 9th out of 12 for non-garbage time minutes. Then there's Bobby Portis. He saw more time in the playoffs compared to the regular season last year. But the question is that by choice or because Giannis was injured? So it's not to say that this archetype doesn't work. It's just a question of, is this an archetype that fits best in the regular season and then doesn't show out in the playoffs? Now, Portis did provide key moments in the Bucks' run to the title. He did a great job there. But are you going to rely on him? Because again, now are we talking about regular season or are we talking about playoffs? Because if it's not, oh, the Knicks should get a wing. I've seen a lot of the Knicks really need to get a 4-5, some guy who can shoot but also defend the rim and play on the wing. You guys know how hard that is to find? And on a budget, really difficult. Those players are really good. It's hard to get that player. So that's then the question of, all right, who are you finding for $25 million or less? And there aren't going to be a lot of names because there aren't a lot of guys who fit that stretch big criteria who aren't stars and who could potentially be available. Like Zach Collins is one. He's earning $18 million. Well, are you moving Josh Hart for him? No. Are you moving Mitchell Robinson and Yabusele for him? I would hope not. Jalen Smith could be an option if the Bulls decide to sell. Sure. You're moving $9 million is a little tricky. It's not impossible, but it means, yes, absolutely Yabusele. And then you need to have Dadier. You could get there with Deuce. Doesn't make sense to move Deuce for Jalen Smith. So if it's Yabusele and Dadier, then you're throwing in Huck Porty. Okay, but now you're probably going to want a little bit more rim protection. Could you bump up Trey Jemison? Yes, but Trey Jemison gets a lot of love because he's on a two-way. The expectations are low. He's also 26 years old. I think people just kind of think, oh, he's a young dude, but he is older than Huck Porty. So don't really know how that works. You could sign a guy like Tony Bradley, but you're still lacking someone to support Mitchell Robinson. Dario Saric, just not really going to do anything for you, even at $5.4 million. You could say, well, Yabusele is not doing anything for the Knicks, but I would actually trust Yabusele more than I would trust Saric. Jock Landale, he's earning the veteran minimum, 2.3. I don't really know why the Grizzlies are trading him, but if they decide to, an option, sure. Doesn't have the biggest track record of spacing the floor, though, doing well this year. So those are four names. And then Sandro Mamukelashvili, he's 26 years old. He's earning $2.5 million this year. He's got a player option for $2.8 million. He's on track to decline it and enter unrestricted free agency. He's a fantastic catch and shoot player, but again, poor rim protector. Do the Raptors want to trade him, though? I wouldn't if I'm Toronto. Why? I mean, I'm in the playoff hunt. I've missed the playoffs 4 of the last 5 years. I can find some way, or at least try to find a way, to keep Mamu. Why am I moving him? And to a division rival for him to go off offensively. But again, he's not protecting the rim. He's also not helping you at the POA. So is this really a need or is this a want? To me, this is a luxury, but it's also a luxury that I don't even think is going to be on the table. And now I want to talk about Mitchell Robinson. He's dominated in big games. He has quite literally won series for the Knicks, multiple series. And with that in mind, that's really it. He's done that. If he's traded, it's for a key rotation player that's coming back to the Knicks. And that's not a suggestion. That's not a push. That is merely saying if he's traded for a key rotation player, that would have to be what it is. But what happens if Robinson's hurt? Because we've seen injury management on multiple occasions. Do the Knicks have Mitch insurance in the regular season or in the playoffs? There's several back-to-backs coming up. I went and I did something very difficult. Folks, I counted 9 sets between today and the end of the season, 9 sets of back-to-backs. That means that Mitchell Robinson would miss at least 9 games. And 6 of them are from the trade deadline to the end of the season. So is it problematic? No. If the Knicks can find ways to bandage it, great. But when it comes to Mitch, my concern is, okay, if he gets hurt, your insurance is Ariel Hukporti. more Karl Anthony Towns. End of list. Because if you're not signing another player, if you're not trading for another player to play the 5, you don't have them eligible. Trey Jemison on a 2-way is ineligible to play in the playoffs. So you are not adding any real support, and you need that. You need that exactly. But so then it's a question, well, what did the Knicks like? And the question for the Knicks and what do they like? It's finding similar players to Mitchell Robinson. You're not going to find many because Mitchell Robinson is that good. He is that elite on the offensive boards. And despite how he's moving, he's still pretty damn good defensively. But that's what you want. You want someone who can rebound, who can play defense, who can box out, who can protect the rim. You'd like them to be more on the perimeter if they can, but that's a lot to ask for too. So I looked through data of several different seasons from 2020 to 2020, the 2020-21, the 2020-21 season through the 2024-25 season. And I looked at players who appeared in at least 40 games that year. And don't worry, for the 2020-2021 season, I adjusted to 35 games due to the 12% reduction because of the 72 games that were played that year. And then I went to our good old friend Dunks and Threes, who do EPM. They do a great job. And I looked at players who averaged a defensive EPM of 0, at least 0 or greater. So greater than or equal to 0. And I looked at players who also averaged on the offensive glass. They had an offensive rebound percentage of greater than or equal to 10. And I looked at the players who are signed to one-way contracts. So no two-way guys. You have to be on a one-way deal. You have to be signed to an NBA roster right now. So I counted them, and here are the players. Over 5 years, the players who appeared once, going to go through them very quickly. Jokic, Cat, Şengün, Kornet, Gafford, Tillman, Lively, Okongwu, Wendell Carter Jr., Zach Collins, Isaiah Jackson, Tari Eason, Precious Achiuwa, Mark Williams, Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Duren, Donovan Clingan, Mason Plumlee, Musa Diabate, Jalen Smith, Nick Claxton, Drew Eubanks. Well, we can rule out Jokic. Cat is already on this team, at least right now. Şengün is not going anywhere. Kornet's not going anywhere. Gafford could be acquired, but around $16 million. Now you're talking about you do have to move Mitch, and then you have to move other salary. Also, Gafford is earning more money, so you're above the apron team in all likelihood next year. Xavier Tillman, don't think the Celtics move him. Derek Lively, the second, out for the season. Onyeka Okongwu, a little undersized, and shooting threes now, but maybe that the role that we're looking for, not exactly a rim runner in that capacity. Carter Jr., also shooting threes, hitting from the corner more. Similar thing. Zach Collins, we mentioned him. Isaiah Jackson, not quite the Knicks tempo, as they might say in Whiplash. Talked about Eason. The Knicks were comfortable letting Precious Achiuwa walk, and I know there are some who are looking fondly at Precious Achiuwa. I wouldn't. He's still that tweener. He's still not efficient at all. He's going to give you some good minutes for a bad team. I do not see him giving you good minutes, even in an emergency role. That type of minute for where the Knicks are, but stranger things. Mark Williams isn't going anywhere. Jackson Davis, part of the Warriors defense, clearly. Jalen Duren not going anywhere. Donovan Clingan certainly isn't. Mason Plumlee is old. Diabate is young on the Hornets. Could be a target. Jalen Smith, we talked about. Claxton, too expensive. Eubanks, not going to be the best option for them. Players who appeared twice. Anthony Davis, Valanciunas, Ayton, Robert Williams III, Goga, Vanderbilt, Mitch, Brandon Clark, Jock Landau, Bismack Biyombo, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Boucher, Day'Ron Sharpe, Isaiah Stewart, Jericho Sims, Tony Bradley. If you couldn't tell, made this before Tony Bradley was waived yesterday. But such is life. Anthony Davis, we've talked about him. Valanciunas, don't see him as a target from Denver. He's also injured. Ayton, don't see him going anywhere with the Lakers. Robert Williams III, it just means you're moving Mitch. So if the goal is to have someone behind Mitch, it's not Robert Williams III. Goga doing quite well with the Magic, so don't see them necessarily trading with the Knicks there. Jared Vanderbilt, believe he's in the last year of his contract. Don't think that he would really be the fit here. Mitchell Robinson is Mitchell Robinson. Brandon Clark, he's under contract for several more years, so I have to imagine you're going above the second apron. I would not go above the second apron because of Brandon Clark. Landale, we talked about. Biyombo, really not getting much burn in San Antonio, similar with DeAndre Jordan. Chris Boucher is playing in Boston. Don't see him going anywhere. Day'Ron Sharpe, really nice young player. There is the Nets tax. Beef Stew's not going anywhere. Knicks are not reuniting with Jericho Sims. And again, Tony Bradley, goodbye. Players who appeared 3 times. Domantas Sabonis, Yusuf Nurkic, Walker Kessler, Dwight Powell, Paul Reed, Steven Adams. Sabonis is hurt, monster salary. Don't see him going anywhere. Nurkic, he's earning a lot of money, and I don't see the Knicks moving Josh Hart to get Nurkic to back up Mitchell Robinson. Walker Kessler is out for the year. Dwight Powell is going to likely retire. Paul Reed not going to be traded by the Pistons, and Steven Adams is not going to be traded by the Rockets. Players who appeared 4 times: Kevon Looney, Andre Drummond, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Kevon Looney is with the Pelicans. Again, do they want to lose games? Andre Drummond, he is in the last year of his contract. The Sixers are a better team this year. Do they want to move him? Isaiah Hartenstein is not coming back to the Knicks. Players who appeared 5 times. The 5-timers club. It's the best you can do. Only 5 seasons of data. Jared Allen, Ivica Zubac, Rudy Gobert, Jakob Poeltl, Clint Capella. Jared Allen, very large contract. Don't see him going anywhere. Also struggles in some ways, and he's not going to be back yet. Mitchell Robinson. Zubac, the Knicks acquire him. It's because they gave up a lot. If he goes anywhere, which I don't think he will, but if he did, he would cost quite a bit. Rudy Gobert makes a ton of money. Don't see him going anywhere, at least certainly not to the Knicks, not backing up Mitchell Robinson. Jakob Poeltl has been dealing with a lot of injuries. Salary-wise, you're going to have to move Josh Hart. Don't see that happening. Clint Capella, he's 3rd big in Houston, at least the 3rd center. Older now, I believe 31. So if he is really doing much there, not sure. He certainly looks older in how he plays, but he's usually garbage time guy. So the viable option for roll and cut bigs. Kevon Looney, we talked about. He's 30 years old. These are really the names of the players we just talked through. He's earning $8 million this season, earning $8 million next season. It's a team option. Clint Capella, 31. He's earning $6.7 million this year, $7 million in change next year, about $7.4 million the year after that. He actually has a 5% trade bonus. Doesn't mean that it has to go into effect. He could void it, but something to note. Day'Ron Sharpe, he's 24. He's earning $6.5 million this season. He's earning $6.5 million next season. He's got a team option for next season. Andre Drummond, he's 32, earning $5 million this year. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And Moussa Diabate, he's 24. He's earning $2.3 million this season. He's earning $2.4 million, really $2.5 next year, and that is non-guaranteed. So if you look at Darko, which is a great way to track players over the course of their careers, this is the historical career trajectory, specifically on the defensive end. That's what I wanted to lean more to. You see someone like Diabate, he's younger, but the defense is not really working quite as well as the others. Although age-wise, based on where he's at, certainly an option. If the Knicks wanted to look at him age-wise, they could do that. Drummond, you can see him dropping off a bit. That's problematic, of course. Times where it just also doesn't feel like Drummond is as engaged. It's like now he can shoot corner threes, but he just didn't want to do that before. Cool. Okay. And then In the same stratosphere, you've got Looney, and then a little bit above him in terms of the defensive talent, Capella and Sharp. Looney, I think he fits quite well with the Pelicans. That team option for them, like he's really the rim protector that they have because it's not Yves Nisi, who doesn't get as much burn and was not drafted by the Pelicans. Derek Queen is going to be the future for the Pelicans, but in the meantime, they're going to need some form of rim protection. So again, it depends. Are they really going to give up on the season right now? There's still time for them to at least try to make a play-in push. I don't think they'll get there, but they could try. And then it's Sharp and Capella. Sharp, a younger player, as we mentioned, 24. And Capella, a little bit older. Again, the Nets tax that Sharp has. It's not that the Knicks and the Nets can't trade with each other. We know that they did with the Mikal Bridges trade, but it's going to cost more. If he's on the move, other teams are probably going to have to pay or get the privilege of paying a little less than the Knicks might have to pay. So we talked about below or above the second apron for next year. What'll it be? Well, you could pick your poison, right? We've gone through different players, and we haven't gone through all of them, but we've gone through a large assortment. And if you feel great, Knicks go above the second apron, there's some names to work with. If you say the Knicks should go below the second apron, there's some other names to work with there too. We talked about if the Knicks wanted to do something drastic and aggregate salaries in the offseason, what happens to the players who are due for a raise and now you're hard capped at the second apron? How are you going to make this work? It's a challenge. You probably have to let them walk. That's the answer. With that in mind, seeing as how going with my gut, I'm going to assume that unless the Knicks make something drastic, unless the Knicks do something drastic this season, I do not see them making it harder on themselves to be above that second apron. Basically, I expect the Knicks to try to maintain flexibility to enter this offseason below the second apron. They can get out of it. They can find ways if they enter it to be above and then be below. But I think if they wanted to do that, they would have extended Mitch already, and they didn't do that. So I'm expecting the Knicks, unless they do something drastic, to enter this offseason below the second apron. And a reason is because they're not going to shut the door on Giannis. They're just not. If he's still available for them this summer, they're going to put their hat in the ring. It doesn't mean they'll get him, but they're going to try, and they're not going to want to hurt their chances. You can still upgrade across the roster this season. It just means, again, you're not targeting players who are due for a large payday. Not acquiring players expecting that payday doesn't mean the Knicks have to do anything rash, right? So, you can still keep Mitchell Robinson. You don't have to trade him because you're all in on Giannis. You still have his cap hold. You can still do a fallback. You can still move other pieces and keep Mitch. You can make things work. So you don't have to just say, we're doing this. Like, back to the Mad Men reference, you don't have to say kick rocks to Mohawk because you want to get in the door with American Airlines. Probably should have just kept Mohawk, but is what it is. You figure out Mitch's situation this summer. But adding another unrestricted free agent or restricted free agent who will command money like Mitch will, that would complicate things. So how can New York upgrade this season and still be flexible this summer? Well, here are some options that I would like to present. Some that we've mentioned. I keep saying we. It's not the royal we, not the dude. This is some that have been mentioned and others that maybe haven't. So option number one, who has been, and this is not in priority, to be clear. This is just listing players. So wanted to first tackle rim protection or rebounding, that whole area. This just happens to be the first player, Clint Capella. It's Robinson insurance and an improvement over Huck Porty. He's a better rebounder, both offensively and defensively. He's more physical than Huck Porty. He's a better defensive playmaker. He has more than 5 minutes of playoff experience. He's a better finisher as well. And he's superior at boxing out, and his defensive free throw rate is better. So if you're looking to find someone to seal off the paint a little bit more, That's your guy. Now, if Mitch gets hurt and is out, you're not going to look at Clint Capella and say, we're good, everything's fine. It's still a problem, but you got to try. And at least you're doing your best efforts with Clint Capella being there. Again, this is barring anything drastic. This is assuming the top 7 stays intact with this roster. This would likely mean salary-wise that Yabusele and Akporti are out. It would create $755,377 in second apron space for New York. Get you about $1.5 million closer to the second apron next season. So that would hurt you a little bit, but not too much. You could still make things work. You could also still try to find a way to flip him. This also isn't including the potential trade bonus if Capella doesn't void it. So that is something to consider. This would require at least one more team. Why? Because I don't see how Yabusele and Akporti help Houston. What do the Rockets need? That's the question being asked. But just as a comparison, if you're looking at Darko for the DPM, the defensive DPM of Capella and Mitch, you would see that Capella is actually more on the up and up. And I'm sure that probably is a factor of he's playing against a lesser caliber of players, and Mitch is playing against better players. But Mitch isn't getting significantly worse. We're just seeing Capella trending upwards. But he's been trending upwards for a couple of years now. So being able to have someone who's in the ballpark defensively, not the same, not as good, not just as good, but close in that ballpark as Capella, that is someone that you at least want to consider. But for Houston, looking at their roster, they are currently $1.3 million under the first apron this year. They're hard capped there. That's to do with the Kevin Durant trade. They're carrying 14 guaranteed contracts. They've been playing PG by committee because they've had to. Fred VanVleet has been hurt. Maybe he's back. That's what Mark Stein reported, that Fred VanVleet might be coming back. Maybe he does. Absolutely. He could. My question, though, because that's a report, it's a good report. If you want that report out there, great. But why do you want that report out there? If you're Houston, it's one of two things. One, it's the truth. He's going to come back. They're probably not going to dip their toe in the trade market. Or two, that's the perfect thing to say so that if a team is trying to give you a ball handler and you're Houston, and you're like, the price is a little steep on that. Hey, Mark Stein, so Fred VanVleet, we're pretty confident he's going to come back from that torn ACL this year. There's the psychology of, well, we don't really need that point guard because we're good over here. That's the question. If he's not back, what do they do? Because right now they've got Amen Thompson. He's been handling the ball a lot, and we've seen there's been a lot of a drop in his efficiency. It's been a problem. Reed Shepherd, he's been playing well off of the bench. Is his natural position lead guard? Maybe not, but he's helping there. So if you're Houston, the question is, do you turn depth at the 5 into a position of need? And now the question is there a 3-team deal? So you could have the Rockets receiving Jose Alvarado and Ariel Hukporti. You have Hukporti as their backup center, filling the Capella role, not as well. And to mention, Şengün is out 10 to 14 days, but we're talking about a deal that would be done a month from now. But if you're the Rockets, what you're saying is, okay, we're comfortable losing Alvarado, but we've got him for this year. If VanVleet is hurt, take some of the pressure off of our better players. Hukporti is really the break glass in case of emergency guy. Come playoff time, we probably weren't going to play Capella anyway. So now we have a guard who can do this. If you're to do that, then Houston saves $244,623. The Knicks, in this case, receive Clint Capella. They save $755,377. And the Pelicans receive Gershon Yabusele, cash, and pick compensation. They would be getting $1 million. Well, they'd be taking on $1 million more. That's where the cash would come in. But then there's the question. Why do the Pelicans want to take on Yabusele's salary in 2026? I mean, he's got the player option. They're a frugal franchise. They've never paid the luxury tax. So, do they want to make that deal? My guess, probably not. Now, the Pelicans could do this and still be under the luxury tax, to be clear. But there could be another trade that they want to do. If they have to take any more money there, they can't. So that's where I'm curious about a fourth team. And if you have a fourth team, you get the Rockets with Jose Alvarado and Huck Porty. Then you get the Knicks. They receive Clint Capella. And then you have the Pelicans. They're not receiving Yabusele anymore. They're receiving Anthony Gill and a second, some sort of second round pick compensation from Houston. And that saves the Pelicans money. They're actually saving $2.2 million because they're getting a minimum player and they're sending out Jose Alvarado. And they're getting a pick from the Rockets for Alvarado. Now, maybe you don't know where Anthony Gill is playing. The answer is the Washington Wizards. So the Wizards would be receiving Yabusele. They would be getting cash and second round pick compensation from the Knicks. Your first thought on second round pick compensation is, the Knicks are just giving the Wizards back their second round picks. It's fine. I do not foresee Clint Capella for Huck Porty and Yabusele with cash as being worthy of what is currently the 34th pick overall this year and what could be still a top 10 second round pick next year. The Knicks have other second round picks to give. But a reason for why, even if this trade is just, doesn't actually happen, because what are the odds? Although, interestingly enough, the Rockets, Pelicans, and Wizards did make a 3-team deal at the beginning of the offseason when they, with the Cam Whitmore trade, that was 3 of them. But if you're the Wizards and you're the Knicks, you're actually friends with each other. Teams like to trade with other teams. Some teams don't like to trade with other teams. But we've seen the Knicks trade with the Thunder quite a bit. Well, we've also recently seen the Knicks trade with the Wizards. Should mention the Wizards in this case would be taking on $3.2 million this year. They'd also, of course, be taking on the money that Yabusele is opting into next year. But I want to talk about Brock Aller and Michael Winger. So Brock Aller and Michael Winger were colleagues with the Cavaliers from 2005 to 2010. And they have enjoyed trading with each other. The Knicks haven't made a lot of trades, although they did make a flurry of moves in the draft in 2024 and a couple, really one or so in 2025. But they did trade twice since Winger took over in June 2024 and February 2025. So when you speak the same language, when you're friends, when you have a team that has a need and another team that has a need, and they can complement each other because the Wizards have more cap space than they know what to do with next year, which is part of why you're seeing Trae Young conversations. This is where friendships can be formed. And this is where saying, hey, buddy, we'll give you cash. We'll give you some sort of pick equity. We need you to take this player on. And I say, you know what? We'll do it because this is a win for us because we're taking on future money, similar to what we did with Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum. This is just a smaller scale of that. And we get some bread in our pockets and we're able to walk out with additional draft equity. Works for us. The Knicks get to say cool because now we got rim protection. The Rockets get to say cool because we got someone who we know is only going to be here for a year and we're going to pay for that price. But also, if Fred VanVleet's not coming back, we could use another cook in the kitchen, maybe not Aaron Holiday. That's where I see this. Another option, a cheaper option, if you don't go the Capella route, is Marvin Bagley. Now, Marvin Bagley III does also play for the Washington Wizards, which is, you'd say convenient, I'd say intentional. The pros of Marvin Bagley III, because we didn't really talk much about him. Keep saying we, like I'm with John. He's here, but it's anyways. Pros: incredibly athletic, strong offensive rebounder. He's pretty good defensively on the rebounding side, but the offensive side is where he has found a lot of success. He's an excellent finisher. He's highly efficient. He's in the 93rd percentile in true shooting percentage entering today. He's a good screener, and he's only earning the veteran minimum of that $2.3 million. The cons: he struggles on the perimeter, offensively and defensively. He's just not a good playmaker. He's much more of a play finisher. But he's finding success this season, making plays a little bit more. So positive, but that's also not what the Knicks necessarily ask of their fives, who are roll and cut bigs. So that's okay. He's a little bit more high usage though. So he's a higher usage player than the Knicks are accustomed to. So is there buy-in on a smaller role? Is there buy-in also on, essentially you're stuck behind Mitchell Robinson. Hey, Marvin Bagley III, you're going to New York. Okay, cool. Is Mitch being traded? Nope. Is Cat being traded? Not in this scenario. Okay. So I'm just DNPs on most night. Yeah, your insurance. That could be tough. And he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, which means he could walk if he just feels like it. Question is, can he get a larger contract elsewhere? Will it also even matter? I mean, he's made money, but you can get a player like him for pretty cheap. You're not breaking the bank for someone like MB3. And the question is, of course, what's the impact of his defense? And when you look at the defensive DPM of Mitchell Robinson versus Bagley, Bagley has been trending up, but trending up has been really just above average, whereas Mitch has just been climbing, peaking a little bit with the injury, of course, but really, up in the clouds compared to where Bagley is. So you're not protecting the rim. You're not finding a negative playmaker. But what you're saying here, if you're the Knicks, is, okay, we're trying to find a guy on the cheap and not use Yabusele's salary. And we also just want to rebound the hell out of the ball. And we want to be more athletic. And we want to have a little bit more physicality and grit there. And Bagley can do that. The springiness, the ability to perhaps set screens, just doing that could lighten things up. But you're then looking again at a player who's just playing while Mitch is out. And it all still just like misses the whole point with Mitch, which is we're scheming around a really good player where his best ability is availability, but that's not his best ability. It's actually offensive rebounding, and you can't necessarily count on him. And boy, would it be great to have a player who's just consistently playing, but he's not. So this is why it's okay if you're not moving Mitchell Robinson, and we've looked at other names and all of that. Marvin Bagley III, an intriguing option. The price, again, he's a free agent at the end of the year, so it shouldn't really cost very much. He's only averaging 20 minutes per game for a tanking team. Of course, Alex Sarr probably taking a lot of his minutes away. Honestly, either of Yabusele or Dadier makes this deal work financially. If it's Yabusele, it creates $3.2 million in second apron space. It shaves his entire salary next year of about 5.8 off the books for the Knicks. If it's Dadier, this creates $551,326 in second apron space this year, and next year wipes away his practically $3 million salary from New York's payroll. I would imagine Dadier is a more likely candidate here, especially if you are the Knicks and the Wizards. For a smaller salary guy, if you're the Knicks, you're saying, okay, we're giving you a younger piece. Do with him what you will. You're throwing darts at the board, so you'll figure it out. But also, we're asking you for what? Maybe 30 games of Bagley, and how many of them are actually going to be played by him? So the second round pick compensation would be maybe like a really meh. I'm talking about very meh second round pick, like that Pacers pick in 2028 or the Celtics pick, and Dadier. That should probably do it. So we talked about bigs. Now I want to go to point of attack. Jose Alvarado. If he's not traded to Houston, the Knicks certainly have the option here. Pros, he's a phenomenal perimeter defender. He'd address your point of attack weakness very well. He defends well in transition and in the half court. He's a pull-up threat from deep. He does do that quite well. He's a nice playmaker, and he passes out of drives at a very good level. He's a steal of a salary because he's $4.5 million, and that's what he's making, and he's got a player option. He's another small guard, though. He's 6 feet tall. He doesn't drive to the basket much. Again, he passes out of drives well, but he doesn't drive a lot, so it's a smaller sample size. He doesn't draw fouls, contact on the offensive glass. Contact offensively is not something he draws, which if you're the Knicks defensively, great. Offensively would be nice. It likely moves Kolek back to the bench, but that's assuming Kolek isn't traded for Alvarado. And the question is, how much is he sharing the floor with Brunson? And my question to my other question is, how much does that really matter? Because we've seen Brunson play with smaller guards. If you can make it work, you make it work. I know there's concern over height, but Brunson has played well with Emmanuel Quickly. He has played well with Deuce McBride. He is playing well with Tyler Kolek. He plays well with good players. Plays less well than you'd like with Karl-Anthony Towns and some other guys, but with guards, he can do just fine. So here's the thing as well. This is applicable to Saddiq Bey, but the Pelicans, they can't shoot. They are a terrible shooting team. This is from B-Ball Index. The teammate shot, especially from three, is just abysmal. Teammate, I'm just implied is teammate 3-pointer. So if I say other things, just assume it's teammate 3-point. So the attempt rate is 4th percentile. That's an F grade. Pull-up shot creation, 38th percentile. D+. All right. Making some moves there. The pull-up shot making, 19th percentile. Okay, back to an F. The shooting talent overall from three, again, 11th percentile. That's an F. Shot creation, 41st percentile. C-. All right. Shot making, 14th percentile. F. Okay, that's bad. And versatility rating, 35th percentile. D+. So it's really hard to stand out when your teammates are so bad and better players close in on you because they know you're one of the few players on that team who actually has gravity. And that's important. The thing with Bey, keeping this in mind, like I said, he's kind of still always been a little bit more inefficient. Alvarado, I feel like, has not benefited from being in a different circumstance or location, and a change of pace could certainly benefit him. Let's talk about the Pelicans. They're currently 1.9 under the luxury tax, like we talked about. God, I'm so used to saying we with John. I can't. It's just so ingrained. All right. Carrying 15 guaranteed contracts this year, so they can't waive anyone and try to save money. Next year, they're projected to be $3.6 million under the 2026-27 luxury tax. Why is that important? Well, they've got Zion Williamson. He's earning $42.2 million. It's all fully non-guaranteed. If he's not traded, he's probably getting that picked up because then he would be waived and some team would probably just claim him. Kevon Looney, again, $8 million team option. Jose Alvarado, like we mentioned. Oh, my God. $4.5 million player option. And Carlo Matkovic, he's earning $2.3 million. That is a team option for next year. So it's $3.6 million under the luxury tax. Pelicans and the Hornets, the two teams who have never paid the luxury tax. So assume they guarantee Zion. Assume they also guarantee Looney and assume they guarantee Matkovic. That means that the only player would be Alvarado. So they could wipe away the 4.5. And that is, they got no money back. We're talking about that would be $8 million, just about. It would be $8 million. So they could do that. They'd have some flexibility. They could add someone with the non-taxpayer mid-level exception up to a certain amount and still roll through it. They don't have a draft pick to worry about. That would add money to their books. That's fine. But if they're taking on a player like Yabusele, replace 4.5 with 5.5, okay, now they're at $2.6 million. their options are fewer. Yabusele absolutely going to opt into that deal. So what do you do if you're the Pelicans? Do you really want to take on more money? If I am New Orleans, I don't want that. Additionally, you may be wondering, well, why are they moving Alvarado? Well, DeJounte Murray is a contract that will be very tough to move. Jordan Poole, they just acquired because they wanted his level of offense. And Jeremiah Fears is ideally for them their future. So that's 3 guards. And then you have Alvarado, who could opt out and walk for nothing. That would be bad. So if I were the Pelicans, I would be looking to offload Alvarado, because Alvarado, yes, I know that they're still trying to win games because they don't have to pick, but Murray is going to come back and playing time is going to get squeezed. And when reality sets in and they stop just focusing on spite, they'll probably keep leaning into the youth movement, which they're already sort of doing, but they're playing younger guys. Alvarado doesn't really help them do that, especially if he were to be gone. And when you look at their draft pick situation, it is not pretty. They don't have a first-round pick this year, but the Pelicans, they do have their first-round picks, 27 through 32. It gets a little confusing, though. 27, it's the greater of their pick and the Milwaukee first, and then the other one goes to the Hawks, or it's the Pelicans and the Bucks pick that they own if both picks are 1 to 4. So that'll be a fascinating scenario next year with the Bucks in play. And then in 2030, it's the lesser of the Orlando and Pelicans. I think it's 2nd round pick, if memory serves. I have it here, but I didn't put the other one. Apologies. So it is the 2nd round pick. Okay. Yeah. So what does it take to get Jose Alvarado if you're the Knicks? Well, in this case, I'm suggesting Jordan Clarkson, Pacome Dadier, and multiple 2nd round picks. And again, not necessarily the Wizards picks, but if a lot of teams are competing, I could see the Wizards picks going for Alvarado. That would be $5.1 million out the door. That would save the Knicks $643,874,000. In this scenario, it would be Clarkson being sent to a 3rd team. You may be wondering, Jeremy, why are you trading Jordan Clarkson? I don't want to. I don't necessarily. It's just that where is the playing time? You have Jalen Brunson. You have Mikal Bridges. You have, Tyler Kolek's probably taking a back seat. You have Deuce McBride. He's going to be playing, certainly. You have so many minutes, only so many. And then you're picking between defense and offense. And maybe you do want that creation. So if this were Tyler Kolek and Pacome Dadier instead, understandable. But with Clarkson, the question is also, do you see him seeing time in the playoffs? Maybe you could see him in that 2nd, 4th quarter units that were discussed. But with that in mind, it's also how much Jalen Brunson are you going to see? And if you're going to see a lot of Jalen Brunson in the playoffs, you're going to want to surround him with a better point of attack defense. And Tyler Kolek, to his credit, has been doing better defensively than Jordan Clarkson has, which is why this is more of a Clarkson, we see you, if you're the Knicks, as a regular season player who gets us to the playoffs, but now we are trying to move you for someone who can help us more in the playoffs, who's got a bit more of that dog in him defensively. So for Clarkson, thinking of a 3rd team, in my mind, it would be the Clippers. It'd basically be the Bradley Beal replacement. They could use the Chris Paul salary and involve a 4th team. Yes, it could be the Wizards, but for the sake of it, it's just fill in the blank of a team that has an open roster spot, has money to take in Chris Paul, and could do it. The Clippers do have the Beal DPE, the designated player exception, which is he's out for the season, so they get half of his salary, and they can use that on anyone. They could take in Clarkson without doing this move. However, because they're so close to the first apron, they couldn't do that move. They're hard capped at the first apron. That move would not be able to go through. And in this case, if the Pelicans are just taking Dadier and swapping out Alvarado, they're saving $1,652,400. Of course, they would be taking on Dadier's salary for next season, but they also have very few young wings. I mean, their only wing forward is Sadiq Bey. So they might want that depth and just play him for the rest of the season. Try to develop him. If he turns into any sort of rotation piece, great. If he's just helping you be bad and you're taking the second round pick equity, so be it. You're still doing okay. You're adding getting closer to that luxury tax bill, but you're still not quite there. Fourth option. This is the last one. If you're listening, I'm not pausing for dramatic effect. I'm just really thirsty. Cole Anthony. The pros to Cole Anthony. He's an elite ball screen navigator. Actually graded out better overall than Jose Alvarado has. He's pretty good at deflections per 75, so he's certainly animated. He's a pull-up threat. He can hit from deep. He is a strong playmaker and passer. That's where he grades out pretty well. The half-court offense is good. He can find teammates in the corner. Based on how he's produced in the past, he does that well. This year, he hasn't played a lot of minutes, but in the minutes he has, he actually does rank pretty high up and finding guys in the corner. Being in Milwaukee, they are also, surprise, finding guys in the corners, driving, kicking to the corners, finding corner shooters, getting the assist. Crazy how that system works out. Almost like it'd be a seamless fit for some players, specifically Jalen Brunson in Milwaukee, I kid. Cole Anthony gets downhill. He has a great floater. He has a good free throw rate in general this season, less so. He rebounds well on both sides of the ball for a guard. There's speed, too. He's speedy on offense, and he's speedy on defense. And he's earning the veteran minimum of 2.3 this year. Let's talk about the cons, because it can't all be good. The cons, well, he's a mediocre defender as a whole. He's got a very inconsistent shot. He's remarkably inefficient, really just quite inefficient. He has ranked 28th percentile or worse among point guards in effective field goal percentage in 5 of 6 seasons. And this is his 6th season. So not what you want. He's got a heavy mid-range diet. That's just not something that would help, but that's who he's been. He's had limited success with that accuracy. The one thing, if he were Mikal Bridges out there, he most certainly is not. He doesn't protect the basketball well, turns it over. He's been receiving DNPs, coach's decision, in Milwaukee, so he's not seeing the court. He is stuck behind Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. He's got terrible on-offs without Giannis, but he does have good on-offs with Giannis, interestingly enough. So there's a reason for why he would be available, and I liken this type of move to last year, which was Delon Wright for Jericho Sims, also with the Knicks and with the Bucks. So with that in mind, it's okay, you've got a player on the shelf who's not doing anything, earning the veteran minimum. What can we do? Well, hey, old friends, as Sondheim would say, the Milwaukee Bucks. They've collaborated with the Knicks again, like I said, on, did it there, on a 4-team deal last deadline. They're looking to improve their team, allegedly. We'll see. They can trade the 2031 or 2032 first-round picks. They can do the swap rights in 2030, 2031, and or 2032. Obviously can't do swap rights and trade a pick, so it's going to be one or the other. They have no second-round picks. None. That's what sending Pat Connaughton to Charlotte does to you. It takes away the rest of your second-round picks before they really even were born. The Sacramento Kings. That's another old friend. Scott Perry, former Knicks GM, general manager of the Kings. The Kings are likely to enter a deep rebuild. That is what has been signaled from Sacramento. And there are very few young players on the roster, but there are several veterans. And they're in the position to acquire a young flyer. You may know where I'm going with this, but Become Dadier. That would be the name that I would imagine. It's well, more than what Cole Anthony is making, so salary-wise, that works. The Bucks want to win, the Kings don't, and the Knicks can help both and themselves. So I foresee a 3-team deal where it's Dadier going out, Anthony coming in. The question is, what's the deal with the Kings and the Bucks? And to be quite honest, I am not going to answer that question. And the reason I'm not going to answer that question is because I have no idea. And the reason I have no idea is because it feels like you could make an argument for Malik Monk. Now he's on the Bucks, and that's Kuzma. Easy, done. If you do that, basically what the Kings are saying is we are getting a player who only has a year and change on his deal versus Monk, who has 2 and change on his deal. Kuzma's making a little bit more, but Monk it's got that extra year. There's also the Kuzma and Ranadive connection that's there. That is, they with the Professional Volleyball League. So if they wanted to do that, they could do that. That's totally fine. I believe Saric would probably move to Milwaukee as well for math to be just about even. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that. But then you could talk about, is Zach LaVine in play? But also I don't think so, because that would require Kuzma and Turner. So let's just stick with Monk and with Kuzma. There's also DeRozan, but let's just stick with that. So I guess you could solve it overall, but that's all the permutations that are there. This deal would save the Knicks $551,326 in second apron space this season. And the deal shaves off Dadier's full about $3 million in payroll next season. Do you think we're going to stop at trade deadline? No. I'm not going to do a whole cap or no cap on buyout options. So buyout options it is. Let's look at players in the last year of their contracts. Those who are likely to be unrestricted free agents this summer. The Knicks can't sign anyone earning above the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. That would be $14.1 million. The reason being they would be hard capped at the first apron. If they did that, that's a big no-no. So players who they can't sign: CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, Colin Sexton, Yusuf Nurkic. Those are 4 examples of players earning more than the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, where if they were bought out, the Knicks are not allowed to sign them. Just looking at recent history, in 2023, the buyout market was Dwayne Dedmon, Danny Green, Justin Holiday, Goran Dragic, Nerlens Noel. Only one of those players played more than 8 games. That was Justin Holiday. He played 18 games, 16.4 minutes per game. 2024, players were bought out: Bismack Biyombo, Danilo Gallinari, Delon Wright, Thaddeus Young, Mike Muscala, Shake Middleton, Patty Mills. And it was actually, Muscala got some decent games. He got 16 in there, but only 5.7 minutes per game. Gallinari, he played 17 games, I want to say, with the Bucks, but he played 9.1 minutes per game. Delon Wright, he played 14 games, 20.4 minutes per game. I think that was with the Miami Heat. And Patty Mills, he played 13 games, 16.4 minutes per game. But a lot of these players aren't going to give you winning minutes. They can play, but you don't want to. It's not to be expected. 2025, you Torrey Craig, Ben Simmons, Alex Len, Daniel Tice, Javonte Green, Bones Highland, PJ Tucker. Daniel Tice was bought out really early. He played 38 games for the Pelicans because they just did not have depth at the 5. Ben Simmons played 18 games for the Clippers at 16 minutes per game. Torrey Craig played 17 games and 11.8 minutes per game for the Boston Celtics. So who will it be in 2026? Who will be bought out? Well, some candidates. Matisse Thybulle, mentioned before, 29 years old, plays with the Portland Trailblazers. Question is he traded, or is he going to be bought out, or is he going to remain with the Blazers? Haywood Highsmith, he is employed by the Brooklyn Nets. Reason I did not include him earlier is because he's been injured all season, and I just don't see the Nets and the Knicks making a trade where the Knicks acquire Highsmith when he hasn't played. Highsmith, maybe he does play, but there's only a month between now and the deadline, so strikes me more as a buyout candidate. Kevin Love plays for the Utah Jazz. If you wanted that, floor spacer, but plays zero defense at the 5, Kevin Love's your guy. He's also 37. When the Knicks signed PJ Tucker, that wasn't, hey, we want you to see minutes. We think you can do this. It was, come help our locker room, because I think we need a voice in the room. And based on how things are going, maybe they could use someone with a little grit like PJ, at least on a 10-day. But we'll see. Doug McDermott, he's with the Kings. I don't think a reunion is in store for Doug. And if Doug McDermott were with the Knicks, I would want Kyle O'Quinn to be with the Knicks too, so we could see at least one more backdoor pass just for old time's sake. But I don't think that's going to happen. So a player that I have circled as a buyout candidate for the Knicks, who does play for one of the teams that's listed here, it would be George Niang. So George Niang, pro. He's an elite catch and shoot three-point shooter. So good. How good? Well, he's consistently shooting 40% on at least 4 threes a game. He's money. He has a similar offensive impact to Yabusele. So if you're moving Yabusele and you're saying, I wish the Knicks had like a 6'6" type of player who's shorter than Yabu, but someone at least kind of that build who is really more of a forward, who can knock down shots and still bleed defense, but I don't have the guilt of paying him what I did, and I use Yabu's salary to get someone that helps either at the point of attack or the rim protection. And now I'm just signing Niang for money. There you go. He's played when healthy. I mean, when he's been a healthy player, he's played. And what I mean by that is he's missed a total of 19 games from the 2019-20 season to the 2024-25 season. That's it. He's missed 19 games in like 6 years. I think that's 6 years. That's pretty fantastic. Where are the cons? Well, the cons are he's yet to play this season due to a foot injury. He has a left foot stress fracture, was supposed to come back. Can't help but wonder, is he just on the shelf and the Jazz are saying, we don't really need you. We're kind of in a quasi rebuild. We're trying to keep our pick, and we don't think your trade value is probably going to be there, but we'll try because you're making like $8 million. So we'll try, but we get it if you have other teams calling. He's a terrible defender. So again, there's the Yabu comparison too. He was 5th percentile and 4th percentile in defensive EPM the last 2 years, respectively. That is pretty bad. And he's unlikely to add much to a team, right? Like when you look at the buyout market, not expecting Niang to be that guy rotation piece. It's more, can he inhabit what the current Yabusele role is, which is go out there and hit shots. Because Yabusele, again, not necessarily hitting shots, and he's definitely not playing defense. So could you just kind of swap the two out there? That's what I would like to see. In terms of his frequency from shots, frequency of shots, as you could see, he just takes so many threes. 66% of his shot diet with the Hawks was from 3, but also that season, 64% with the Cavs. Before that, 61% with the Cavs from 3. That's not 3-point percentage, mind you. That is just the percentage that he's been shooting. 76% of his shots in Philadelphia in the 2022-23 season were from 3. 67%. You get the picture. It's up there. He takes a lot of threes. And when he was younger, he took a lot of corner threes. Now he's taking more above the break threes, which is great because he can just park right above the break let the guys hit corners, but he's also a corner threat himself. And then when you look at the accuracy has him hitting a lot of threes, especially above the break. Definitely some corner shots. He's done well, but the above the break threes are where George Niang has made his money. And I want to highlight one column in particular, which is effective field goal percentage, because it is beautiful. It is all orange. And if you're looking at this, blue, bad, orange, good. If you're not looking at this is from Cleaning the Glass. This is what you want. This is a shooter. This is someone who has tremendous gravity. This is someone where you can throw them out there for 8 minutes. And if they're bad, you yank them right away. But if they're hitting shots, hallelujah. Now, the offense, again, is not the problem. But having someone that opens that up, even when you're searching for something, it just makes things a little bit better. So, filling out the roster. We're almost done. The Knicks right now are at $148,358. They're under the second apron. Any move they make will trim payroll. It has to. They have to send more money out than they get. How many players will the Knicks employ after February 5th? That is the question. Because the league requires that you have to eventually be at 14. Well, assuming Niang clears waivers, there's enough room for him to sign immediately. If the Knicks have 12 players and sign Niang, they may want to wait, because then there's a little bit more money in the banana stand. If they don't have that, then, or rather, if they have 13 players, they could sign Niang right away, and it could be fine. They could also wait, no matter what. What does that mean? Well, teams can go up to 14 days without having 14 players on the roster, and they can do this twice. So it's a total of 28 days, but you can only do it for 14 days and then another 14 days. So you're not able to do anything different than that. You can't go 15 and 13. It's at most 14, at most 14. So if the Knicks were to be in a deficit roster-wise, and then let's say they're at 13 players on February 5th, they could wait 14 days. And say 12 days in, the Jazz could waive Niang. He gets waived. 2 days later, he clears waivers. His salary is off the books. And then he signs for the prorated amount on that 15th day. And then the Knicks are good. And then they got him. And if the Knicks are at 12 or 13, really 12 or 13, and then Niang makes 13 or 14, they could still do something else, which is signing Kevin McCullough Jr. They could sign Kevin McCullough Jr. to a minimum contract. This is technically, this is his first year of, he was drafted in 2024. So in terms of where he's at, they could sign him to a contract. Because again, players on a two-way contract, they're not playoff eligible. Signing him would give you additional Josh Hart depth if you want it. You're probably not running a lot of Kevin McCullough in the playoffs, but why not? His two-way contract's going to end anyway. I figure you might as well sign him to fill out your roster. And as an example for what it could look like, you could have Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Alvarado, McBride, Shamet, Diawara, Robinson, and then you could have Kolek, McCullough Jr., Niang, Capella. You could also have Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, Kolek, Clarkson, McBride, Diawara, Robinson, Cole Anthony, Shamet, McCullough, Niang, Marvin Bagley III. Not suggesting, hey, you have to pair Anthony and Bagley or Capella and Alvarado. Just saying, here's one big and one guard. There you go. Here's another big and another guard. That's how it works. So that's effectively that. So in conclusion, and I appreciate everyone for sticking with me as long as you have, maintain 2026-27 second apron flexibility in case the team is hard capped due to a Giannis trade. That is something that you want to consider. If you're looking to get Giannis this summer, if you're the Knicks, you want to maintain that flexibility. That's assuming he hasn't moved this season. And if he is and New York doesn't get him, or if he is and the Knicks don't get him this summer, we'll talk about it later, because that's a very different conversation. There is room to re-sign Mitchell Robinson and go over the second apron if the team elects to go above the second apron in 2026-27. In terms of Giannis, that means that they couldn't trade for Giannis this summer. It means they'd have to trade for him this deadline. If you're the Knicks, you want to upgrade margin players where possible. Deadline deals typically underwhelm due to the NBA, due to the new CBA, and a lot of teams require cooperation. So that's why you're seeing a lot of different deals come together that have multiple teams. 14 deals aren't as crazy as they used to be, but you want to take the end of your roster and package it up and plus it up with draft equity to create a better team. That's what you want to do. And the buyout market in general can be tricky. There are a few options who would see significant playing time. It can depend on roster construction after the deadline. So with that, I say thank you very much and appreciate the opportunity to do this cream. As a result, let's pull it down. If John's on the ones and twos, hopefully he has. I know I've been talking for a mile a minute for more than a minute. Let's see. Do we have any chats? We have super chat. First, from Kevin Danishevsky. Thank you, Kevin. I want Alvarado now. You and Veruca Salt probably share that in common. Don't care how, I want it now. So, Kevin, I hope that pleased you, because there you go. From Dan Hidalgo. Fundamental of life and business. Don't ever be desperate. You will lose 100% of the time. Dan, thank you for the contribution. Totally agree. Leon Rose obviously has done a very good job at negotiating. But yes, you don't want to be the desperate one, because the moment you are desperate, you are losing your leverage. You're taking the wind out of your own sail. You do not want to compromise on yourself. You know what you need. You know what you got to do. Do it. So, Dan, sage words. Appreciate you dropping that knowledge in. Very true. Anyone else? Mr. Macri, are we?
We're all done.
Thank you very much. Voice of God. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I know that this has been a difficult week for the Knicks. I don't know if this was cathartic. I don't know if this was frustrating. I don't know if this was a different emotion, but I appreciate you tuning in. There were a lot of slides, put a lot of time into it and a lot of effort, because I love having the opportunity to do this. And the fact that you all are sticking around to be here, it means quite a bit, and it's incredibly rewarding. So there are probably going to be names that I didn't mention that you want to talk about that aren't live or maybe aren't in this forum right now. There will be an episode of Cream that is not including a cap or no cap. We'll get to that. There are probably other players that we could just think through, or maybe there's an out-of-the-box idea. Maybe there's a trade. Maybe there's something. There will be a window for us to do it, I promise. In the meantime, thank you for sticking around. Make sure to like, subscribe, smash that like button. You know, we're in 2026. The way this platform has grown has been amazing. So thank you all for helping contribute to that. And of course, a big thank you to John for being on the ones and twos. And I'm sure John wants to get on with the rest of his night. So I will step away. Thank you all. Have a great night. Let's go Knicks.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.